Hey everyone, I sincerely appreciate your support. If you enjoy my audiobooks, I would be truly grateful if you could subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support even further, you're welcome to become a Patreon member, where you can access audiobooks of novels as long as they are freely available on the internet. Your kindness and support mean so much. Thank you.
Yay. That thing's after US? It's circling in front of US. The hell's that teamwork? It's making a crane formation. Screams of adventurers were heard from within Shakna Forest. My tamed beasts were pursuing beginner adventurers. If Montavo appeared and saved them, it should have raised his reputation, but the hell are you doing, Montavo? Hurry and help those adventurers or Imma beat you up. Why does my noble and one and only elite self have to save some stupid mob characters? They're just trash compared to me. I'm actually thankful to the beasts for helping dispose of the trash. Montavo was leaning against a tree trunk, calmly drinking tea. How did you even bring a teacup here? Imma beat you up? Montavo, you're not listening to me, are you? Drop the black tea and go. This is roasted green tea though. Don't drink it in a teacup. It was unexpectedly a health product. Enough, just go, or I'll break the sacrament cage and those glasses and make them into compost. Humph, fine. I don't want my precious glasses cracked. Montavo finally started moving and went to save the adventurers. Sheesh, he still wouldn't move just as I wanted him to. I made various places where Montavo can take action in order to raise his fame, but he doesn't like saving people. Even if somebody screamed, even if they bled, he would never go there to help them. He would start moving, but he would turn pale in the face and his feet would stop. He would then coldly say, I don't care if those bastards die. I wanted to brainwash him into being a good guy, but I suppose I didn't correct his personality enough. Though Montavo won't win against Uedaro unless he became an ally of justice. Montavo's full name was Montavo Gil Jingate. The House of Jingate was a noble family of Kura. I heard they were a family that rose from the post of guildmaster, which means they were really a merchant family. The town noble Jingate had stood in opposition of the Lord for a long time. They continued to protest that the Lord levies too large fines, but the Lord shielded himself with his enormous authority and ignored those protests. The fines are one of the town's important source of income, you idiots. Not something the likes of you merchants should protest about, he said. However, Kura was attacked by orcs 3 years ago and the currents changed. The Lord, who couldn't fulfill his most basic duty of defending the town, lost a lot of his influence. In order to replenish his lost power, the Lord made peace with the Jingates. To establish marriage ties between Jingate and the Lord, the latter offered his daughter Kirisha's hand. And as for the Jingates, in order to have Kirisha marry into their family, they called back their third son who was studying in the continent. That was Montavo Gil Jingate. He was a returnee. Now then, to talk about what kind of person Montavo is, he was a stereotypical lazy son. Bad with money management, ardent womanizer, bad personality. As soon as he was back at Kura, he started cheating other people in trade, start fights in bars and take the lives of ruffians, and other stuff like that. I was on my desk in the inn thinking about Montavo. Judging by the rumors about him, he was a typical small fry, or actually, a scoundrel. A long way from being a hero. But well, a charming scoundrel who is actually a nice guy is the Royal Road pattern. And on top of that, Montavo is the first strong enemy in Uedara's narrative, the Gatekeeper. There are lots of stories in which the Gatekeeper turned over a new leaf later on. Originally, Montavo's stories supposed to go this way. Challenged to a duel by Uedara, Montavo used his anti-magic and gave Uedara a hard fight, but was defeated. However, he later had another meeting with Uedara. While being treated as a joke character, things happened and he and Uedara went on a journey together. While spending time with Uedara, Montavo slowly learned justice and gained a new power. Then, things happen and he followed Uedara until the end. Which is why he's supposed to be good at heart. It'd be hard if he wasn't. How could I quickly pull out that part of him? Oh, is something troubling you, Motoki? Want to cop a feel? Lu showed up. She abused me as usual. Wait, she didn't? Why are you being nice to me today? Well, last night the goddess Yuva told me in a dream that the phrase when a cop a feel is catching on Earth lately. There are other things she should be telling you, right? That goddess was really not a decent one. Using an important oracle to say something like that. Yees, but then again you started rubbing my breasts right away, as expected from Garbage Eki. Your hand went for it like a quick-shot gunman just now. Well, since there's a boob there you'd obviously grab it, right? You couldn't not rub it, right? What are you saying? Really, what is this girl saying? Is she an idiot? Whoa, crazy. The boob contamination in Motoki's brain has reached dangerous levels. Doctor. I couldn't concentrate because Lu was being noisy, so I decided to change places. The one I could consult about stuff like this is after all. I see, so that's the reason you came to consult with me? You wanted advice from this priestess who knows well about people's hearts and alcohol and night business, said Rania as she wiped droplets of water from the glasses. Priestesses aren't normally familiar with alcohol and night business, but well, I do want to consult. I was visiting the shopping district's bar, Uvan Church. I was there to look for advice from the Barton, priestess with plenty of life experience about the Montavo makeover. Only Rania was behind the counter, Miria wasn't there. She was inside having a rest, which was convenient for me now. How am I supposed to change Montavo? I tried all sorts of things to change Montavo's personality. First I captured Montavo at night to isolate him from his playmates. Then once Montavo becomes alone I trained him to his limits and made his attitude and actions favorable. Montavo became liked by the townspeople, and they praised him plenty. Isolated from friends rightward arrow hard training rightward arrow planting a different value system rightward arrow praise. People could easily change with this process but in Montavo's case, it didn't go too well. He didn't become a good guy well. It seemed like he had certain hang-ups against the idea of saving people. Motoki, you've got the idea of doing your makeovers right, but you forgot one important process, said Rania, resting her elbows on the counter, bringing her face near me. You have to make that Montavo boy battle his past self. His past self. Yeah, a person, any person, is haunted by their own past, meaning, themselves when at their worst. When they're determined to change themselves their past whispers to them what's the big idea, trash like you changing now of all times. I think that might be true, their past prevents them from changing, huh. He certainly does look like he's got something in his past. But how could I clear away that past? Simple, you make him face it head on and he'll win with room to spare. The thing about pasts is that if you ran away from it it'll get cocky, but if you turn around and faced it head on it's actually weak. So he has to battle his past. I can't leave of that process after all, huh, well, not like I don't understand. I had to make Montavo face his trauma to undo his chains. With my mirror, that is possible. It's possible but I don't really want to delve into his past though. If I do I might get attached. I won't be able to think of him as a pawn anymore. That would be a problem. It's going to get in the way of the plan. What are you saying now of all times? You and that Montavo boy have completely become master and student haven't you? I was only brainwashing him. Haven't you ever considered what you call brainwashing is human relations? Wow, she cut me off. Well anyway, I had to do it even if I didn't want to. Let's find out about Montavo just a little bit more. I had to share his trauma and clear it away. With Rania pushing me from behind, I decided my next plan. By the way Motoki, there's one more thing I wanna ask you. What? You've been rubbing my breasts since earlier, what are you doing? If there's a boob there you normally go and rub it. No, both Lou and Rania are weird. Are they dumb? Do you wanna get stabbed with a cocktail swizzle? If you stabbed me with a swizzler then you'll be the criminal, right? I unbuttoned Rania's waistcoat, then continued with her shirts. I slipped her out of her black bra, and the pointy-tipped guys came out. Despite Rania being dark-skinned, those parts are light in color, basically white, with a slight nuance of pink. The paleness was erotic, for some reason. I got up onto the counter and brought my face close to those pale things. I did what I usually did with Miria and Rania went AHN. Rania doesn't look like she'll spout milk. I'm over 30, already but, a younger man, is making me, his sex friend. You're weird, aren't you? Fine, suck it, all you want. While being out of breath, Rania circled her hands around my head. Rania's motherliness encouraged me and once it's done I will begin exorcising Montavo's demons. Trigger warning, contains lowly. TN, I mean it, seriously. Uncle, look, it's starting to grow sprouts Disuyo. Hurry, Kirisha called me to hurry to the garden. Flower sprouts were starting to appear here and there in the garden. The bulbs and seeds we planted together had began to sprout. Kirisha's eyes shined brightly seeing the new life grow out of the ground. Incidentally, Kirisha was wearing the sundress I gave her as a present last time. So pretty. Mr. Flower is cute too Disuyo. Mr. Flower is not like people, they have a high chance of sprouting so they're easy to raise. Well, it's true that people can get crushed easily. The way she spoke of people and flowers on equal terms, she really was the Lord's daughter. Mr. Flower is working hard. I want to brag to everyone about the product of love between Uncle and Kirisha. Ha ha ha, I'd like it if you don't, I'm going to be ruined. Don't worry, all the people Kirisha wants to brag to don't exist. I self-destruct. Kirisha raised both arms. Now, I can't stay like this. Let's get to work. Kirisha held a shovel in one hand and began working the soil. I looked at her hand wondering what she was going to do. Kirisha was picking up the sprouts that lost the fight for dominance and replanted them somewhere else. You're not culling them. Normally, these badly grown buds would be picked up and thrown away. Kirisha won't throw away the children Kirisha raised Notiswio. If they lost in their original place, they can live somewhere else. Little lady is very kind. Mr. Flower is moving house Notiswio. Kirisha replanted the weak buds. It was a very calming scene but I wonder if the flowers could live in their new place. If that place became full of flowers, where would they go next? If they continued running that, where will they end up? Once the gardening was done, Kirisha said she was tired and wanted to take a nap. The two of us entered the bed. Kirisha went inside my arms right away. Papa. Which angel said that? I wondered, but it was Kirisha. You can be spoiled all you like. I frolicked with Kirisha with a fatherly feeling. However, the more I touched Kirisha's skin, indecent feelings bubbled up from inside my body. I really wanted to do something lewd. I wonder if I could nonchalantly strip Kirisha naked. Then, I came up with an idea and tickled Kirisha's sides. Geez, it tickles. Kirisha laughed and flailed her legs. The hem of her dress magnificently flipped up and her panties peeked out. While she was being tormented, the shoulder of her dress also slipped and her bra was showing. Her panties slipped down almost to the limit, just a little bit more and her crotch would be completely visible. Her bra also slipped and one of her breasts flowed out. Her chest that was starting to swell, garnished by a cherry-like bud. I could finally see it. Kirisha, who struggled to get away from the tickling, was breathing roughly. Ha, ha. Her eyes were teary. Geez, uncle is a hopeless prankster Disuyo. Kirisha will get even one day Disuyo. With one of her breasts out and panties slipping down, right at this moment Kirisha was a little woman. The allure made me feel like my reasoning was going to be blown away. Then, someone's coming. There was a knock on the door. I considered ignoring it but Kirisha answered, "We're coming. Please wait Disuyo." So I can't help it and decided to go out. I opened the door and there was, "Good day, you're in a different body but you're Motoki, right? Is it alright to call you Motoki right now?" The visitor was Ruby. Which reminded me, I asked her to come over today. Ruby nonchalantly peeked inside the house and her eyes stopped on the bed. There was a flopped down Liliko in a messed up dress. "Laliki, may I at least go inside? My name is Motoki, goddess damn it. I want Kirisha to be friends with not just me but other people too." With that in mind, I asked Ruby to come, but Ruby said to Kirisha, "Hello Kirisha-chan. I'm Ruby. I work in a grimoire store. I want to be friends with you." She was trying her hardest to act like an older sister. But as for Kirisha, Disuyo, she was sullen. She puffed her cheeks up. "Oh, what's wrong little lady? Why did your cheeks get so big?" I said as I poked Kirisha's cheek. "It's not any different than before Notisu. Kirisha's face is normally like this." "Oh, is that so? I thought it looked a little different." "Uncle's memory is getting bad because you're old Disuyo, but don't worry, Kirisha will take care of you, so the people getting in the way should just go home." She was jealous of Ruby because she thought she was taking me away. Even while looking away, she was grabbing my pants tight and groaned. "Oh goddess, this creature is so cute." It's a bit of a pain but this was a good trend. The fact that people felt envy is proof that they value themselves. Kirisha, whose father had been stolen by her half-sisters, did not quarrel with them but ran into the forest. I wouldn't win anyway, she thought, and gave up without a fight. Nobody treated Kirisha kindly so she felt she had lost value. But now, in order to protect her place, she desperately rejected Ruby. Then Ruby approached Kirisha. "Kirisha-chan, I really want to be friends with you." Ruby suddenly pulled Kirisha into her own breasts. The moment the marshmallow soft breasts wrapped Kirisha, her expression lost its antagonism. Wah! Ruby's boobs are so comfy. Down in one shot. Amazing, the power of explosive breasts. Now that the two became friendly, the three of us had fun spending time. Then evening came. "Oh, it's night already Disuyo. Kirisha has to go home." With a sad look, Kirisha got ready to go home. While she did, I asked her a question. "Little lady, how are things going in your house lately? Are things going on safely?" Well lately, Papa and second wife San are getting a bit dangerously tense in Notisu. It's weird, they were getting along just before Notisu." "Well, that has nothing to do with Kirisha. Second wife San. That's some expression to use for your official mother. I know how you feel though. But anyway, the Lord and his wife had not been getting along lately. That was probably because of the thing I did. The results were coming in a bit at a time. I made quite a bit of sacrifice there. I'd be troubled if there were no results." Then Uncle, Ruby Onisan, bye-bye Disuyo. Come play again tomorrow. Yes, be careful on your way back. Kirisha-chan, see you. We saw Kirisha off waving our hands, then I turned back into Motoki. Ruby and I sat around the table in the house, facing each other. There's a little something to do so I had Ruby stay behind. Now that the Kirisha healing is done, let's get to work. This may be sudden Ruby, but I want you to do something. What is it? It's still light out but you want me to strip already? It's embarrassing. Ruby began unbuttoning herself. No, not that. I want to consult with you about the scenario from now on, but before that I want you to write something. I put some paper and a pen on the table. I'm going to recite a plot, and I want you to write them down like a scenario. Motoki, are you scheming something again? Yes, I'm always scheming something. Little by little, the preparations were coming together. In order to steal Kirisha and beat Uedara down. And meanwhile, to do something about Montavo. Uedara, the Lord's family, the Jingate family. My opponents were all big shots, but were nothing much. With careful preparations, I'll prove I can knock down any opponent. I'm sleepy Motoki. Why do I have to go this early in the morning? It's harrowing. I've only slept for 8 hours. It's harrowing. That's the healthy sleeping hours, isn't it? Anyway, just walk. Early in the morning, I took Lu, who was stifling yawns, on a walk through Shakna forest. We parted the branches and leaves covered in morning dew and entered deep into the unpopulated forest. Motoki is a demon. But you're rather lively, aren't you Motoki? You've been going around capturing the lowly girl and doing BL stuff with Montavo lately, too. Even though all I did was government work, I originally worked a lot back on Earth. Being busy and sleepless was my thing. Oh, you're one of those proud of losing sleep people. Try doing that famous Earth line, I haven't slept. Proud of losing sleep, huh? It's still alright while you can be proud of it. Real people who lack sleep are silent with eyes of death on them. When they finally open their mouth, they'll say you call our company a black company, but we actually give our employees 100 days of leave a year, covering for their company. Yeah, people need to get 360 days of vacation a year or else. That's unemployment. While talking in that way, we finally reached the forest opening. Then, let's begin. I want to be him. I willed it and mirror transformed me into a blonde-haired swordsman. I unsheathed the sword on my waist. Say Lu, try holding this sword. Well okay. It's a really cool sword, though. It's calling to my Chuorni Argh. The moment Lu held the sword it discharged electric attacks at her. Lu was electrocuted and fainted. Even a replica named Sword chooses its wielder, huh? I was transformed into a famous swordsman I passed by in Kura before. The famous swordsman's sword was of course a named sword it chooses its wielder. The sword decided that Lu was out. Like a famous umpire. Hey Lu, wake up. I poked Liu's cheek. Ah, she woke up. What was that just now? Is this how you treat your legal wife? You want my insurance payout or something? Calm down, I don't have your insurance policy, idiot. Well actually, I'm looking for a sword I can give Montavo. A named sword that's just right for Montavo to be wielding. Montavo's sword? But what's it got to do with? From my point of view, you and Montavo are equals when it comes to fighting. A sword you can use means Montavo can use it as well. In other words, haha. In other words you're using me as a guinea pig, right? Imma make ya pay for this, ya better grit your teeth, ya bastard. Luchan the berserker swinging her knife around. This is going to take time. I don't want to waste any so I decided to throw away my pride. I kneeled and hugged Lu around her waist. Say Lu, I'm begging you. I don't have anyone to rely on but you. I'll pay you back when I make it big. So you're coming at me with those lines straight out of a band member pestering a woman for cash, but you're really going to repay me? You're not going to throw me away when it's convenient for you. I'm not. Do I look like I would do anything like that? You look exactly like someone who'd do that and you have the track record, too. Ah geez? Alright, I'll be your guinea pig or whatever, just don't look at me with those eyes. Thank you Lu. Even though I was doing all that like a useless man, Lu was actually also more motherly than the typical person. After all said and done, she basically listens to what I say. Oh goddess, Liu's got great talents as a sex friend. Then Lu, try holding this sword next. I transformed into a red-headed orc and took out a sword from the sheath at my back. I gave it to Lu. Ugh, I've got a bad feeling about TIEEAAAOOUUWWW. Lu was burned. 30 minutes passed and I transformed into all the famous swordsmen I knew and had Lu hold their named swords. However, the result was a complete failure. Lu was unable to use any sword, which means Montavo couldn't either. What should I do now? The plan to release Montavo from his trauma and get him started on the path of the protagonist had nearly been completely worked out with Ruby yesterday. But I couldn't clear this one problem. I didn't have any weapon to give him. A sword he can defeat Uadara with. A half-hearted sword would be no use, but if I gave him a named sword he'd be like Lu now. But anyway, let's leave that aside for now. Lu, you alright? After receiving all kinds of attacks from the swords, Lu was rolled down in a heap by my feet. Her clothes were torn and ragged, and there were no light in her eyes. This is criminally erotic. Let's do her once later. Ugh, that was horrible. Lu slowly picked herself up. One of her breasts peeked out from a burn hole in her chest, but let's not tell her. But Motoki, your mirror's amazing now that I've got a good look at it. Huh. It can even reproduce what that person has. Which means, you can transform into a rich person and sell his stuff for a good amount of cash, right? This is going to be a big business. Lu gets lively when she talks about money. However, no, we can't do that. The moment I transform back, all the things I get when I transform will disappear. We can't sell things that'll disappear later. Huh? If it disappears when it's already sold then there's no problem, is there? That's swindling. Once Lu and I got back from the forest, did her once in the forest before we do, I immediately headed for the detached house, played with Kirisha and Ruby, did Ruby once Kirisha went home. Then night came. As usual, I headed to the meeting place to meet with Montavo. First I hazed Montavo as Kai, then continued training him as Lugindal. Montavo's getting good lately, he doesn't get exhausted anymore. It all went smoothly and about an hour before dawn the entire training menu was done. Somewhere unseen by Montavo, I transformed from Lugindal back into Kai. Now then Montavo, let's go visit the grave again today. Go apologize to Frine. I don't want to. We went the other day so that's done, right? My noble and busy self remembered that I have something urgent so, no, we'll be going there to apologize today. I tightly grabbed Montavo's arm and dragged him to the graveyard. Montavo averted his eyes from Frine's grave so I grabbed his head and forced him to bow. Montavo let his former master Frine die for his own self-protection. He didn't take his poisoned master to a doctor but locked her in a room. He had regretted it ever since. Say Montavo, if Frine were to ask your help now, will you do it properly? What's that impossible supposition about? Frine's dead already? The dead don't ask for help, even to my noble self who governs the world's providence. Yeah, I suppose. You don't get to meet with the dead again. Normally, that is. Montavo woke up just afternoon every day, thoroughly exercised by his master Kai every night. It was impossible for him to wake up in the mornings. However, even when they were having a break in the training, he would spend the night drinking so he would end up waking up at the same hour. Montavo, who loved to engross himself playing around at night, was known as the playful lazy son by the rumor mills. However, they had a slight misunderstanding. There was a real reason why Montavo likes to play the night away. He was afraid of the night. He would hear the voice of the master he let die when he went to sleep. Bakhan, why? Her speckled patterned skin. The visage of his poisoned teacher appeared many times to him in dream, but nowadays, it had become slightly better. The illusion of Phryne didn't scare him as much as it did. The reason was clear. That was surely because he was forcefully brought to Phryne's grave. He would be afraid of everything if he ran. But when he faced her head-on, the fear gradually subsided. Leaving the bed, Montalvo had an idea and took hold of his sword. He stood in the middle of his room and swung the sword. Swoosh, the sword cut the air. From outside, it looked like a perfect slash, made without unnecessary moves, faster than anyone. However, it still warped. Its path was dull. The warping was not something so easily fixed, it seems. Well, there are things even my noble master fencer self couldn't do. Will he win against Uadaro like this? However, what was he to do after all this time? He had to believe in his master Kai. Then, that moment. Mon, are you up? The door opened, and his older sister entered. Oh, good morning. What brings you here, my sister who shares the same blood as my noble self? You won't shut up with that as usual, I see. I'm coming to see if Mon's gone lazy. Your duel with that Cutero, Reincarnator kid is close, right? Don't lose, okay? If you win, the Lord's daughter Churisha is going to be ours. The dueling opponent is Uedera, and the prize is Kirisha. She'll be your future sister-in-law, so get the name right please. Yes, that. Kirisha, make sure you get her, okay, and get many children off of her, okay? Children with the blood of the Lord are useful, very useful. Yes, well, just leave it to me, my sister of equal nobility to my noble self. My noble self, the pride of the Jingate house, will certainly make Miss Kirisha my own. If he won against Uedera, Montalvo Jill Jingate was going to marry the Lord's daughter Kirisha. For the Jingate house, it was their holy grail. They would be able to have ties with the Lords, that is the Marquis house. How much power would they be able to gain with this marriage? Montalvo himself had no interest in the Kirisha girl. He knew nothing of her except being the Lord's daughter. He didn't know what will become of the girl's life. Mon is strong, so you'll be fine. You can seal this Uedera's magic with the sacrament cage, right? So good luck with training today. Oh, I remember. His sister recalled something and said, you know, there's been rumors recently, dead people have been getting bodies and coming out. It's funny, isn't it? Something like this happening so soon before the festival. Ghosts, huh? I wonder what business we can start if we captured one. I smell lots of cash. The dead, huh? It was a common idle nonsense, right? Ghosts don't appear in the flesh, but Montalvo wondered about that just a little bit. With the festival coming, the town of Kura's central plaza was built into an impromptu arena. The space with audience seating surrounding it was where Uedero and Montalvo's duel will be held on the last day of the festival. It was a common situation in fighting manga. Montalvo came to visit the arena late at night. Kai said tonight's training will take place here. What did he want? A rehearsal using the real place. Montalvo grumbled and sat down on the anti-slip sand. He looked up into the sky. He saw starlight. He recalled his master, and hummed a requiem then. Step, the sound of footsteps. Kai. Montalvo looked towards the arena entrance and held his breath. It was not Kai there. An wrinkly old lady with spots on her skin. She was thin as dry wood, and yet her eyes gleamed like a carnivorous animal. She had a sword on her waist. Get up, Bakhan. It's time for practice. I'm late. Late at night, I ran towards the arena where I'm supposed to meet with Montalvo. I took too much time with the preparations and was late. You're late, but you're not. Go. I'm late. I'm not. I don't have time to butt heads with a girl coming out of an alley. Motoki, you don't abide by Earth legends, do you? It's not even Earth here. Ignoring Lu, who was running next to me, I ran. I was in the graveyards just earlier. There I dug the grave of Montalvo's former master Phryne and took a look at her rotten corpse. In order to transform into her. Tonight, I will be fighting Montalvo in the arena as Phryne and plan to be defeated. Then in the end, I was going to say this. Bakhan, you've become strong, you're the strongest swordsman. Montalvo will be released from the phantom of Phryne and become a protagonist. Finally I arrived at the entrance to the meeting place. From the entrance door, I entered the arena grounds. Montalvo was on the arena and was already fighting. They stood facing each other with swords ready. Who is it? Montalvo's fighting. An old lady. Motoki, that person, looks exactly like you right now, peas in a pod. I was now transformed into Phryne. Which means that is. What? Phryne was facing Montalvo. The dead old lady. What's going on? It couldn't be a real. Motoki. I remembered something urgent, so can you let me go back to my parents' home? My dad was suddenly ill. He might die tomorrow, it's true. In fact, he might have already died today. Then that being the case, adieu. Stop fooling around. I caught the fleeing Lu by the scruff of her neck. Don't leave me alone in a situation like this. I can't handle it. I can't handle ghosts. I've done nothing but bad deeds all day, so I'm definitely going to be killed. I put more strength in my arm so that the wriggling Lu didn't escape. The return of the dead, you have got to be kidding me. Is it because the festival is near? I heard the boundary between this world and the next becomes fuzzy during a festival. Or now that I think about it, was it because of the rumor I spread? The one where the dead appears in Kura? No, but in that case why did only Phryne come back? No, let's think about reasons later. Right now, I have to grasp the situation. I fixedly observed the situation. Montalvo faced Phryne, and then, the match began. TN, 15 more chapters until I'm caught up. Wio. His master Frine, who was supposed to have died, was right in front of him. Montalvo stared over Frine's body. She wasn't a ghost, she had a real body. Tisk. This was no longer a story about an abnormality. The providence of the world had been thrown into disarray. How should he deal with this? His head was a mess of confusion. Should he run? Should he call for help? Stand up, Bakhan. It's time for practice. Yes, he reflexively answered. If Frine said it's practice, he was not allowed to refuse no matter what the situation is. He clutched his sword and stood up right away. The habit from when he was a young boy still remained in him. He could not grasp what was going on, but he knew he had only one thing to do, to strike against Frine with his entire body and soul. Montalvo readied his sword and faced his master. On the other side, Frine pointed her stick-thin sword at his eyes. It wasn't only her sword that's thin, her arm and her body were also like dried wood. It seems she came back in the body she had right before she died from illness. Her body was a scrap of paper compared to the adult man Montalvo. And yet, what's going on with this heavy presence? Scary. He couldn't step in. His master's Toki was silent and overwhelming. He didn't think he could win. If he couldn't win, then he should run. Even if his opponent was a master, in a pure physical contest it would be his win. If Montalvo tucked his tail between his legs and retreated with all he had, Frine wouldn't be able to catch up to him. However, if you ran away, you'll be forever in fear. Kai's voice, his current master's voice, rang in his ears. That voice cut off his path of retreat. He can't run away until this is over. He won't run away. If he ran away now, he will run for his whole life. He calmed his heart, suppressed his breathing. I'm going in, Bakhan. And thus Montalvo was faced with training with his life at stake. To challenge the mistakes of his past. What's going on? Why is Frine there? What is this? Why is a dead woman walking? I was holding my head over at the arena entrance. At the arena, Montalvo and Frine, who should be dead, were fighting. This is ridiculous. Ghosts do seem to exist in this world, but I never heard of them having flesh bodies. In fact, ghosts shouldn't be able to enter a town with a church. This went beyond my expectations. This couldn't be. Honestly, I've underestimated this world. Immediately after reincarnating, I realized the rule of this world. I see, this world moves according to tropes of stories, I said. Everything was easy once I noticed that. I was after all a former actor and book boy. I know all the rules of stories and playwriting. Since I knew them, I could break them. How should I move to disrupt the story? How could I disappoint the goddesses who were the readers? I knew like the palm of my hand. And with Mirror, everything was perfect. It was all too easy. I had recently felt that the world moves just according to the scenarios I wrote. TCH. And yet what is this? What in the world jumped my gun? What is that Frine really? Motoki? Motoki, hey, your face is pale. Are you alright? Come on, don't lose it. You should jump into your legal wife's loving chest at a time like this. I'll cuddle and protect you no matter what. You were going to run away on your own just earlier. How could you be so calm? Well, since I felt Motoki's unusually showing weakness, you see. And I thought if I'm nice to you now I could dominate your mind, so I shouldn't be afraid of some ghost now. But it won't work if you say it, you know. Like hell I'd be brainwashed by the likes of you. Oh, then I'll be going home. Ah, I wonder if Motoki will be okay. That Motoki who actually have the mental strength of tofu. I know he's going to need his legal wife's chest to support his heart, but if he says he doesn't need me then I'll. Please wait. I tightly clung to Lu. There, good boy. Motoki just needs to stay on my chest for your whole life. Now repeat after me. I really love Lu-chan. I hate big breasts, I hate priestesses, I hate lowly girls, I hate blonde ringlets. Now, 2, 3, go. She even found out I did it with blonde ringlets. I thought I hid it well enough, but it looked like she only let it pass. Women are scary. Well, whatever. I have to get a grip on the situation now. Let's leave what that Frine really is for now. How should I move now? I stared at the arena. Montalvo and his master were fighting. His situation was not good. That granny is amazing. A cunning expert, a master. She moved like flowing water, toying with Montalvo. What is that monster? I would barely be able to fight her as Kai. Then Montalvo couldn't possibly win. I should give him a hand. I couldn't afford to lose Montalvo now. Everything after this would go out of order. But I couldn't go and help him. If I jumped in now and win against Frine 2-on-1, it would have no meaning. Montalvo could never run from his master's shadow for his entire life. Then there's only one thing I could do, one thing I could hope. Win. If you lose, I'ma beat you up. Frine's sword was exceedingly simple. Sharp blows from afar into the enemy's chest. After the blows, she would draw back into the enemy's blind spot, repeating the action many times. It was classic hit and run. It was textbook, easy to read. Easy to read, and yet she could not be countered. Montalvo was barely able to keep taking his master's sword strikes. It's not that Frine's sword was fast. Speed-wise, Montalvo was faster by a wide margin. But Frine attacked without any useless moves at all. Both in swinging her sword and moving herself, Frine didn't change her center of gravity. There were no superfluous movements. In a flash, Frine, who should have been far, was near. In a flash, her blade was already near. Something like that. These are the moves of a person who had mastered the forms? Montalvo admired his master's sword. She was ridiculed. Who cares about form? But it was the culmination of the techniques of those that came before. It couldn't not be useful. If it's not useful, it's only because you lack practice. Only those who do not fuss over the glory before them, who diligently piled practice upon practice, could reach that state. Montalvo was basically a defensive swordsman. His winning move starts by locking swords with the enemy. However, the flowingly moving Frine would never entertain him to a lock of swords. In that case, I should take the initiative and put her in disarray. If he ever had a chance to win, it was there. A fluke is fine. If he could hit Frine's sword just once, being as thin as she is now, she would no longer be able to hold the sword. That was his one and only light, but Montalvo didn't want to do it. If he took the initiative and struck, then his current, warped sword would be seen by his master. Nevertheless, he had to do it. If he didn't show his ugly self to his master, he would never win against her. I'm coming in. Yayayayarg. With a loud scream, Montalvo swung his sword. He swung his sword down on Frine, mowing away her weapon. Tisk. Searing pain ran through his shoulder. He seems to have been cut there, but it was too shallow. He can still go on. Haaa. He thrusted with his whole weight, but she fleetly evaded it. She was like a bullfighter. His eyes were drawn to her. He was cut again. His arm this time. Too shallow. I'm still fine. Montalvo's body was now full of cuts of all sizes. His muscles were already soaked in lactic acid. His joints, his bones creaked. He was wounded all over, but he couldn't stop. He couldn't stop swinging his sword. He couldn't stop stepping forward. Haaa. Encouraging himself with his voice, he swung his sword. With his master right in front of him, he stepped forward with all he had. He couldn't not be scared. It was because he was scared that he faced her. Montalvo stepped forward. The moment he did, his leg was cut. But it was too shallow. I'm all right. I can still fight. The reason his wounds had been shallow was because Montalvo stepped in fearlessly. Even masters would evade if the enemy approached close. Because they attacked while evading, the attack couldn't conclude the match. Montalvo saved his own life with his bravery. A small mistake when fighting with real swords, and your life is forfeit. Those who couldn't move forward won't have a chance of winning. But even so, Montalvo was not at an advantage. Ha, ha. He faked it with willpower, but his strength was already at its limits. Montalvo had regrets. If only he practiced every day, if only he didn't drink, if only he took enough sleep, if only he didn't betray Frine that day. That guilt reflected in the warping of his sword. Those thoughts dulled the edge of his blade. The wavering of his sword's path became bigger. Such a warped sword, said Frine, so shameful, shameful, the sword of a corrupted man. Those words had sorrow in them. She finally said it. Montalvo's face became hot. Such embarrassment, the shame was torturing him. I've come to grasp how you've lived your life, Bakhan, like it's here in the palm of my hand. Frine said that, then opened her eyes wide. The light in her eyes became sharper. She shifted into a higher speed gear. Frine, who had been a distance away earlier, was now right in front of him. Montalvo was unable to react to his master, who had carried the basics to perfection. Guh. Frine's sword stabbed into his left shoulder, finally leaving a deep cut. His vision grew hazy from the fatigue and blood loss. But that's just the appropriate punishment, right? For his ugly self who betrayed Frine, betrayed himself, and continued to delude people, of course he'd be punished. That's why getting wounded and losing is natural. Is that sand? I muttered. Some sparkly material flew off from Frine while she attacked Montalvo. It was probably sand, but why sand? Sand? Ho ho, for blinding enemies? I always bring some with me on walks. I can't go without any more. Lou proudly showed an eggshell filled with sand. Frine wouldn't do something like that, would she? Hey, gimme that sand, I'm throwing it away. No way. Sand is the trendy item this summer. It's the highest popularity code according to Orc Fashion magazine. This summer, blind the female knights with sand and take them away, they said. I told you to quit harassing the female knights already. Leaving the sand idiot aside, let's check on Montalvo. Montalvo was completely on the losing side. I was watching with anticipation. Maybe he could win somehow, but it's completely out of the question. The moment he ran out of strength, he will be thoroughly killed. That's how different their statuses are. But still, it's beautiful. Frine's sword was beautiful, more than any dance. The fully optimized motions captivated the eye. Every swing of the sword, every step of her feet was the culmination of Frine's own life. It was already at the level of fine art. But then again, it was very beautiful, but if you asked if I would want to keep watching Frine's sword dance, I'd say no. In fact, I wanted to look away. It made my stomach heavy. I don't want to look at Frine. What is this feeling? Then that moment. Such a warped sword, Frine said disapprovingly to Montalvo. I've come to grasp how you've lived your life, Bakhan, like it's here in the palm of my hand. The moment I heard Frine, I noticed the strange feeling I have felt around Frine. Ah, I see. I became irritated at Frine. The Frine who condemned the stained Montalvo. The Frine who sighed seeing her student pass the time idly. Towards Frine, who criticized Montalvo, you're so undisciplined. I felt anger from the bottom of my heart. I felt like I was being rejected. What's wrong with being warped? You've been saying it like you have the right of it. They're always like that. People like Frine always say the same things. The strong who were born with the hard-to-gain traits of honesty and diligence, they always criticize the weak like that. Why did you get involved in evil? Why couldn't you practice every day? Why couldn't you be nice to people? Shut up, you idiots. You're only born beautiful, that's all. You only ended up having the honest and diligent mentality by chance. Frine was also one of them. That was why she criticized Montalvo. Shut up, ye strong, don't speak about people's hearts. You who don't understand the grief of the weak have nothing to teach us. You who haven't experienced vice, don't talk about virtue. You who don't know warpedness, don't meddle in people's lives. Stop preaching so self-importantly, you damn granny. If you really love him, don't reject him. When Montalvo was trained by Frine, he was surely having it hard. With an upright person by his side, he would conversely find his own ugliness. In order to become like Frine, Montalvo would continually reject his own weaknesses and stains, but he could not pass the trial. Montalvo, just by chance, didn't have the mental talent. Even though he didn't, he forced himself to be, which was why the moment Frine was removed from him, Montalvo greatly changed. In reaction to the restraint, the needle of Montalvo's heart swung over to the dark side. Montalvo, I took Kai's form and shouted, forgive your own warpedness. My voice made Montalvo's shoulders shiver. You've been toughing it, rejecting a part of yourself? So as your current master, I accept you? Your master right now is me? Listen to my voice. I made my voice louder. Swing your sword your way proudly. The moment Kai shouted, Montalvo's vision became clear. What he saw was his own daily visage. Very human, far from honorable poverty. He loved drinking, he loved women, he loved looking down on people. You could say he was a garbage of a human being. Frine hated that Montalvo. That's why Montalvo hated himself. However, I accept you? I see, my current master accepted the trash of a human being that is myself. Then I will stop rejecting myself this once. He was warped. He was not beautiful at all. But what's wrong with not being beautiful? Thus he threw the question back. When he decided to do so, yet another strength erupted in him. Energy welled up down from the roots of his existence. You. A vulgar scream leaked out of his mouth. He glared at his master. When Montalvo was young, he loved Frine, he admired her. That was why he stayed by her side. However, he actually really hated Frine. A damn granny who doesn't understand people's hearts. He was the one who asked Frine to coach him, but he didn't want to be dictated so thoroughly like this. Oi, granny, you were all too fired up and tried to make me to fit your own ideals. Because you said all that, the situation between me and my family had gotten delicate. That was the grudge he had against Frine. The more he dug down, the more he found the ugliness in his heart. But he properly accepted that part of him, he looked at it properly. After all, humans are such creatures. Montalvo took a deep breath. Let's start again. Phew. Montalvo let out a breath and released the heat in his head. Then he calmly thought, if he continued fighting Frine like this, he would not get even a single chance to win. Firstly, he recognized that fact. The opponent's sword was extraordinarily fast. She was essentially a different breed of human. Someone who's born that way. Her heart that sought truth had exceeded the level of humans. Competing with that will only earn him defeat. In that case, let's show her how a human fights. Montalvo extinguished the Toki from his body. He cast his eyes down, his pupils empty. The corners of his mouth warped in a slovenly expression. Bakan, have you finally given up? Said Frine, strongly disappointed. So that's what you do when you understand you can't win? Very well, I'll do you a favor and cut you down. Frine closed the distance between them, as if saying, here's your judgment. In a perfect step with zero wasted movements. Montalvo was, until earlier, unable to react to it satisfactorily. However, read red. Montalvo stopped his master's sword. He stopped each and every one of the sword strikes she gave out. Montalvo was reading the motions of Frine's mind. She did not show any superfluous moves, but inside that calm body existed a beating heart. He could simply read that. By provoking her, Montalvo incited Frine's emotions. He could read human emotions. Born to the house of Jingate, Montalvo lived in the world of business, whirling with worldly emotions. By accumulating experience negotiating with veteran merchants, he gained the skill to read the human heart. By straining his nerves while speculating on stocks, he stared at the flow of the world invisible to the human eye. By amusing himself gambling with people in the underground society, he brought up the grit to not be perturbed at anything. Watching men, watching women, watching money, watching the night, watching drink, he watched people. He had experienced life beyond what an ordinary human does. Not a single day passed for him in leisure. That experience was useless with regard to the sword, but even if it's useless, it's not unusable. The sword is the reduction of an entire life of experience. All excess thoughts dwelled in the blade. Innate talent, accidents of life. The two combined, and now at this moment Montalvo had perfected his own sword style. While receiving his master's sword, he added in small feints. Frine wasn't an opponent who'd be tricked with something like that. But by doing that, small waves appeared in her thinking. And he read those waves. It was underhanded, it was crafty. But what of it? Humans are such creatures to begin with. If it's an enemy he couldn't reach by skill, they will surpass them by thinking and planning. That is how humans climb to the top. Frine's blows kept coming in like a summer rain. He received them all. Sword clashed with sword, creating a serene metallic symphony. The sound and the dance enhanced the senses. The scene in his eyes went in slow motion. He was able to see various things, even things that he couldn't normally see. Ever since he was young, Montalvo had always been by his master's side, but his heart was distant. The human Montalvo couldn't possibly understand a superhuman's mentality, but he could now. What her master thinks, her life, her solitude, he could grasp it by the palm of his hand. Ah, such joy. It was a time of supreme bliss. He could go on like this forever. However, peaky, there was a slight noise. Montavo's sword had started to crack. Motoki, this is starting to get tiring, let's go home. I'm hungry, buy me a night snack. Sorry Luchan, it's getting good now so can quiet down please? For your whole life if you can? If possible I'd like you to shut up in the next life as well. It's fine already isn't it? They'll settle the fight whether we're here or not. Sheesh, some battle this is. Just shut up already and cheer for Montavo. Can I boo at him? Out of the question. Ignoring Liu's noisy booing, I watched Montavo. His situation was rebounding. As if the earlier battle was a mistake, Montavo's movements became better. He was somehow liberated by the fact that I approved of his real self. His way of fighting was infuriating, full of feints and tricks but that's how Montavo was. I suppose he's fine like that. I had, for a time, tried to make Montavo into an honest human being like Frein did. But there might have been no need to force him to be that way. Even a very human, cowardly scoundrel could be a protagonist depending on how the story goes. The two danced in the arena. They looked like long-experienced pair dancers. The sparks from the swords, the flaring of life, they adorned these two's dance. I want to keep watching it. I wanted to watch, but the sword. There was something strange with Montavo's sword. Peaky. There was an ominous noise. It looked like his blade was beginning to crack. I knew it. My fears hit the mark. Montavo had been growing splendidly well into a protagonist, but there was just one problem. He did not have a sufficient weapon. A heroic character would invariably have a named sword. Montavo didn't. He still couldn't handle one. What to do? Should I throw in a random sword? But would Montavo be able to equip it? Liu had failed to use any of the swords in the experiment the other day. No, but it might be possible for Montavo now. Then which sword? Well, at times like this the right thing to do would be to have him succeed his master's sword. I looked to my waist. There was Kai's Gulsiut there. Even though it's a replica, the sword that was given to Kai directly by a goddess was strong beyond compare. Montavo probably wouldn't be able to use it. But it's not the case that he would certainly not be able to use it. This was a demon sword that contained magic power, and on Montavo's neck hung an anti-magic treasure, the sacrament cage. With the sacrament cage that annuls magic, Gulsiut's power will be drastically reduced. But you see. But even so, Gulsiut was strong. Too dangerous, I didn't even get Liu to touch it. That was how dangerous a reincarnator's weapon is. If the Montavo right now were unable to hold Gulsiut and fainted Frein will naturally kill him. And that, well, whatever. Let's deal with it when it happens. I have already made up my mind. Let's stop thinking difficult things. Let's believe in my disciple. Montavo, take this. I took the handle and swung, and the demon sword Gulsiut stabbed the ground in between Montavo and Frein. Boom! The moment the sword hit the ground, a heavy sound rang throughout the place, and clouds of dust danced in the air. Take it and conquer it Montavo. Don't lose to a mere reincarnator's sword. If we reincarnators could use it, then you could too. You who grieved and went through hardships, you who knew evil, and yet chose to continue walking, you, more than any reincarnator, are worthy of the title. Protagonist. TN, it was brought to my attention that releasing too many chapters at once breaks the feed, so I'm going to publish a few at a time again. Besides, this chapter felt like a good place to stop. Montavo recalled a story Frein read to him a long time ago, a story about a sword who chose the king. The person who was able to pull that sword out of the stone would be granted the title of king. The moment he did, he was transformed into a protagonist. There were many stories similar to that. It was probably one of the basic patterns of a story. Young Montavo read all those stories and longs for it. I will someday get my hands on the best sword, too. That was a transient dream of his youth, and would not normally come true. But now the chance to seize the dream was in front of him. This sword, for me. In the arena grounds, the sword Gulsiut Kai threw and told him to use stood. Montavo held his breath in the face of the overwhelming aura the sword possessed. Now that it's in front of him he understood that this was a weapon that surpassed all others in the world. The materialized mana of the sword wrapped around the blade like a snake. It scared him, but he wouldn't even have a chance of winning against Frein if he didn't take this sword. When the dust from when the sword was thrown in settled, Frein would sure rush into attack. Then before that happens he had to be ready with the sword. I'll pull it out. Isn't it cowardice to be using Kai's sword? He thought for an instant but he thought again. No, it's not. Meeting with Kai was one of Montavo's experiences. Then the weapon that Kai told him to use is a part of him too. Without hesitating, he gripped the handle. Tisk. The magic power in the form of a snake coiled around and crept up along Montavo's arm. The dense energy made his consciousness faint. Rying. A bell-like sound brought Montavo's consciousness back. It came from the sacrament cage hanging on his neck. The sacrament cage vibrated as if encouraging its owner. It frantically tried to whittle down Gulsiut's magic power, fighting it together with him. This rare magic item was one that Montavo gained with his own strength. Because Montavo earnestly proved his strength, his father gave it to his third son. My life has not entirely been in vain. He held his breath and opened his eyes wide. He didn't remember living a life that would lose to some sword. He lived and was treated as dirty. He lived every day fighting other people like animals. His masters were Frein and Kai. He was raised by the two most excellent swordsmen in the world. There was no reason for him to lose to the likes of a magic sword. That definitely won't happen. He believed. For sure. He exhaled and pulled out the sword. He gripped the handle strongly in both hands and pulled. Frine's sword came in soon after and he parried it away. The power of the demon's sword even threw Fur's body back. No, she jumped back on her own. Frine didn't show even a speck of agitation seeing her disciple hold a demon sword. This kind of unexpected thing was surely within Frine's expectations. She had long understood that there's no such thing as pre-established harmony in a fight. Frine jumped in again and again. Her sword clashed against the demon sword. Montalvo's thoughts from living as a human and Frine's heart that walked the straight path of the sword butted heads against each other. They each enhanced each other. Power and speed rose up without limit. Eyes could no longer follow. Sounds came after the sense of touch. It was a dance free from thought. Thoughts came after. Their bodies move half automatically. The self fused with the world. The vivid image suddenly appeared in Montalvo's mind. An endless expanse of land, forests continuing every which way, great trees with trunks like rocks, and the divine horned creatures that lived there. The great sea splashing up spray, galleons plowing over the surface. A land covered in sand and the scorching sun. That was surely the sight Montalvo should have seen. If that day Montalvo fulfilled Frine's wish and indicted his family, he would have left Cura and traveled the world and saw these scenery. Probably, together with the master he healed from poisoning. I wanted to see it, said Frine while swinging her sword at high speed, the sight of Bakan, becoming stronger with the strong people of the world, by your side. Large drops of tears fell from her eyes. Why didn't Bakan choose my story? For the first time, his master's sword was strained. Its path wavered. The deep sadness, the wailing, it all reached him. Yes, I didn't choose you. Because I was weak, I didn't choose you. His cheeks became hot. Seems he was unable to completely block his master's sword and was cut. He was happy. Now when he looks in a mirror, he will be reminded of her sword. I didn't choose you, and I have always regretted it. He disliked her, but he was fond of her. He disdained her, but he respected her. And while he hated her, he loved her with his whole heart. He never forgot about Frine even for an instant. But I have accepted the story of my past where I remained in town, and with that, I'll redo my story. As he put his resolve into words, Montalvo swung Gulsiut down. He cut apart the story that should have been with the demon sword. One blow from Gulsiut struck Frine's sword. Ki-eighth. The long reverberating sound melted into the night. Montalvo and Frine were facing each other and heard the sound. They relished the world's most beautiful sound with all their 5 senses, letting it infuse into their souls. Ah, it's over. When the sound stopped, something happened to Frine's thin sword. Her sword was cut in half and fell to the ground. Bakan, no, Montalvo, it's your win, Frine. The moment the match was settled, Montalvo stabbed the demon sword on the ground and embraced his master. She was hard and thin, his poisoned master had no meat on her body. This hardness was proof of Montalvo's sin. He had always been running from this. He was not running. He was facing her head on. It was a mistake not to apologize just because he wouldn't be forgiven. He dearly, dearly embraced his sin, telling the one he threw away, I love you. Bakan, you, Frine whispered to his ear, you have found a wonderful story. Ah, his master now approved of him as he is. His body trembled, and tears flowed. Those were the words he had always wanted to hear. He had always suffered because he never heard them. Anguishing every night and every day, always, always. SSHH, the chains wrapping his soul disappeared. You spinning your own story, it's so. Frine said that and suddenly kissed Montalvo in the mouth. His master's lips were very youthful for an old woman. When their lips parted, what he saw was a beautiful woman he's never seen before. Gallant and divine. The woman that was almost like a goddess was wearing silver armor. He only understood that she was Frine. Montalvo, live proudly on this world. Let's meet again when your time comes. Frine said so, leaving a beautiful smile, and she turned into sand. Wah. When Frine kissed Montalvo, she transformed into a beautiful woman. Rejuvenated? No, that was a complete transformation. Frine transformed into something completely different, just like my mirror. Transforming with a kiss. I see, Frine was a Ubekawa 1 heroine. Ubekawa? Ah, yes, that one. Yes, I know that one. Lu-chan, pretending to know. If you already know, then I don't need to explain. I'm very sorry, I'll dip myself in boiling water, so please teach me. Well, no need for the boiling water. It happens a lot in stories that heroines were transformed into ugly forms. When they fulfilled certain conditions with the protagonists, they would get their original forms back. Like, being loved, or exchanging a kiss. So the ugly forms they had before getting their beauty back is called the Ubekawa. If Montalvo set off on a journey with Frine, she would certainly have gotten that form back, and they'd travel through the world getting all friendly like. They would probably get married and have children. Montalvo, you have it too good. However, Montalvo didn't choose Frine, which was why she died ugly. Then only after she died she was able to successfully throw off her disguise. Because she and Montalvo opened their hearts to each other. Which means, that just now were the echoes of the story Montalvo didn't choose. But then it's really something like a ghost, huh? How did it materialize? Who or what gave Frine a body? Well, whatever, let's think about that later. Now, we should rejoice, because I have finally obtained what I wanted. I looked at Montalvo, who had become strong, collapsed on the ground. After being given my sword, Montalvo splendidly used it. He won against the trauma that was his greatest enemy. Having received a deep wound from his master's sword in his face, he gained a stigmata. He had also encountered the goddess that was Phryne's true form too. I had no complaints with this. Montalvo's now a fine. Congratulations, you're now a protagonist. TN, another small update. Check my yacht. How is it, my complete victory? Wheel, I'm really a genius aren't I? Even I'm scared of my own ingenuity. It won't be long before I reach the hand of God is it? The talentless Liliko should just try again next time. Shoo shoo shoo. You. Looney-san is too cocky after calling back Cease 240 times notice Wio? Kirisha wants to raise an objection to this match. Kirisha flailed her arms with her hands balled into fists, protesting against Lu who was seated opposite of her. They were playing a board game. It's so nice of you two to be so peaceful. Oh, is this what they call a poor loser? Liliko kids don't know when to give up, do they? You've already lost when you let your opponent take back Cease you know. But. Looney-san even did a dogza, so, a dogza is like an attack Disuyo. It's not fair, it's cheating. Kirisha continued objecting, but Lu stopped up her ears and stuck out her tongue going la 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 I can't hear you. Even looking from outside she looks so irritating I really wanted to beat her up. You, Kirisha finally began to tear up. Uncle, Looney-san is bullying me Disuyo. As she cried, Kirisha clung onto me in the guise of the old soldier. I gently patted this angel, Kirisha's head. There little lady, don't cry. Liu's a heartless person. A crazy person who lives by throwing away all her dignity as a person. Please forgive her, she'll self-destruct later anyhow. Kirisha has some life experience but this is the first time Kirisha ever seen a person like Looney-san. She even hit her head on the floor when she did a dogza. Today I called Lu to the detached house to keep Kirisha company. I was worried whether Lu who was mentally a child could get along with Kirisha and just as I thought she bullied her. Well, Kirisha seemed to enjoy talking back to her so all's good. The fact that she could object was proof that she valued herself. Me, Ruby, Lu. Little by little Kirisha's friends in town increased. By relating to people she would come to want to take root in this town. While I was patting her head, Kirisha soon stopped crying and made a smile in my arms. Hey, lovely. Ah, so cute. I want to cherish her and raise her. I've been going all out raising Montalvo lately so I think I've come to enjoy the fun of teaching. But in that case, there was one problem. Uncle, you're having a faraway look? Anxious for your old age? Don't worry Disuyo. Kirisha will one day set up a gentle pension system. No, well, that's what you do while you're young, so, no, I'm not really thinking of pensions, was just looking at you and thought, the young lady sure is cute. Would I be able to get aroused at such a cute Kirisha? Her innocence levels are going all out already. This is bad. I have to do it and yet I'm getting these feelings. I suppose I can't do it as an old man. If I turn into a young man again well, let's cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's just do what I have to do for now. There's just a few more things to do before the festival. I had to make just a few more preparations. I want to welcome the day I overcame all obstacles and get to leisurely watch Montalvo beat up Uedaro. Then all I have to do is leave this paper laying around. Yeah. Just leave it on a table at the bar or so and make it look like something a customer forgot. Now go. I pushed Liu's back away. Sheesh, you're rough on your underlings. You've been neglecting your legal wife and bling with Mon just yesterday. But I wonder why, when remembering Motoki and Mon going my heart, feels. Stop it, don't turn rotten, and don't make my and Montalvo's master-student relation into something dirty. By the way Ruby already began writing a novel with a Motoki times Mon couple. She says she was going to publish it in town to get back at you for before. You women, just go. I said, chasing away Lu with the flyers. Carrying the same, I went out to town. After a bit of walking, I reached the circular plaza at the center of town. The ground was still gouged out, The scars from the Montalvo vs Phryne fight last night was clearly left there. Recalling the heart-stirring fight between the two, I got up onto the audience seating surrounding the arena. Here and there on the wooden seats, I left several sheets of the paper I brought with me. If someone took the paper and turned what's written inside into rumor a few days later my scheme will be a success. That's right. I jumped down from the seats to the arena. I approached where Phryne turned to sand last night, and there were mysteriously sparkling sand here and there. Since it might be a clue someday, I collected it. But I wonder who did it, bringing Phryne back to life. I looked up at the night sky. I asked the goddess who resided there in my heart. Yuva, was it you? Or maybe some other? No use asking now. If they don't get in the way of my plans, then I don't mind who they were or what they were doing. If they don't get in the way, that is. While being rocked about on the coach, the Lord of Kura, Griska la Kura, thought of his wife. Irene the wife who earnestly supported himself as a lord. 1 year after his previous wife died, Griska married his current wife Irene. For Griska, she was a better woman than his previous wife was. The fact Griska who wasn't talented by any means inherited the lordship was thanks to his wife. His wife can see through the world. There were never even one occasion that he went wrong with following what his wife said. The one who took care after the orcs attacked Kura 3 years ago was mostly her. When he offered his daughter Kirisha's hand in marriage to the local noble, the Jingates, just as his wife said they immediately silenced the noisy townspeople. Sure enough, he can't go wrong doing what his wife said. The one who decided Montalvo to fight Uedaro was also his wife. For the Lord Jiriska's family, this feat had no demerits at all. If Monavo won, then Kirisha would marry into the Jingaites as planned, and if Uadaru won, there would be no problem either. Uadaru. He was the currently popular reincarnator, bringing down orc fortresses one after another. He would surely win fame as a great hero in the near future. If his daughter joined Uadaru's party, he would be able to gain fame for the family, which was why he didn't care who won. By the way, the one who decided the match should take place on the last day of the festival was also his wife. Religious authority had been weakening in Kura lately, so they had misgivings about even holding a festival, but by having the top-grade entertainment of a heroes match, the townspeople became excited right away. His wife was a genius. Irene was the best of women. That was what Lord Griska believed. However, Griska was right now having trouble with regard to Irene. He was suspecting Irene of adultery. It had become the talk of the town. Irene was gallivanting with men. He was told she was hunting for men at a high-class tavern. She herself called out to a man at the counter, and the two disappeared into the night. There were no end to the eyewitness reports. Not just one or two saw his wife walking with a man. Among them, there were some who saw his wife strip naked in public. Griska found it unbelievable. That good wife and wise mother, to be cheating. Impossible. Sure, he did allow Irene a certain amount of freedom, but to gallivant about night in and night out was logically impossible. But there were too many rumors. Griska couldn't help distrusting his wife. Currently, Griska was forbidding Irene to go outside and locked her up in her room. At the entrance, he set up a maid to stand watch. Irene was shocked at this treatment and said, "Why do you even need to suspect me who loves you so?" However, Griska couldn't be calm unless he did this. There were too many rumors. "Master, we're here." While the thoughts ran through his mind, the coach arrived at the mansion. Griska felt something amiss. Even though the coach had arrived, no maids came out to greet him. He thought it impossible, but he opened the door himself and entered the mansion. When he did, a maid who happened to be there opened her eyes wide in surprise. Master? Why, didn't you come home just earlier? What the hell are you saying? Something's not right." Griska scrunched his eyebrows. Tisk. Griska had a bad presentiment and went to the second-story bedroom. The maid who should have been standing watch by the door wasn't there. Irene. Griska jumped inside the room. And what he saw there was his wife Irene was on the bed. She seems to be asleep. And sleeping next to her was a butler who had long served the house. Griska couldn't believe the scene in front of his eyes. Master? This is not what it looks." The butler got up in a fluster but soon looked as if he had resolved himself. No need to make excuses anymore. Actually, ever since the day Lady Irene came to this house, we have been having this kind of relations. Everyone in the house knows of this, only Master doesn't. What did you? Grisha's whole body trembled. Not only his wife and butler, everyone in the house betrayed him. However, it all makes sense now. Even though he was absent, there was no way his wife could so grandly sleep around with men. But if everyone knew and stayed silent, Griska's sight wavered. Who could he believe? Not his wife, not his butler, not anybody in the house. At a time like this he could only believe in family. Only his daughters Yu and Lala know. Were Yu and Lala even actually his daughters? Irene had been sleeping with the butler since the day she came to this house. It couldn't be. The butler continued. Lady Irene was such a slut. With just some incitement from me she easily opened her legs. But on this point, your previous wife Lady Marin was tough, there was no gap to use in her. Such a chaste woman. So different from this slut sleeping next to me. Well then, excuse me. With that said, the butler ran to the windows and jumped. Left behind, Griska felt like the world had collapsed around him. The maids came running after hearing the commotion and seemed to be saying something, but it didn't enter his ears. Where could he find someone to trust? Then a face popped into his head. That's right, only her. Kirisha, where's my Kirisha? Montavo, you helped my son the other day, didn't you? Thank you, really. Montavo, thanks for the advice the other day. My shop's getting back in the black somewhat. Montavo, make sure you win against Uadaru, okay? Everyone's rooting for you. Montavo, who was practicing with his sword in the plaza, was called out by the townspeople. This was how it's been recently. Ever since he was released from his trauma with Frine, Montavo had been actively helping people. With the high specs he was born with in full swing helping people, Montavo's popularity boomed. The people that until recently had been going Uadaru this Uadaru that were now infatuated by the noble's third son. I understood their feelings well. The Montavo right now had charm. This bearing that exudes aura belongs to a story protagonist. Yes, I'll do my best. I'll devote all my strength and challenge the Reincarnator Uadaru. Sunlight shone on the scar on Montavo's cheek. The mark that said I am the protagonist. I don't need to worry anymore, I suppose. Transformed as Kai, I muttered. Today the training ends. All that's left is to watch the two fight. The practice continued until sundown, then I judged Montavo to have fully mastered training. Since you're now a protagonist, there's nothing more I could teach you, I told him. Montavo bowed to me deeply with tears in his eyes. Thank you very much. If I hadn't met with Kai, I would surely have walked the path to ruin. I have you to thank for everything. No, it's all right, you don't have to say that. It's not all right. I am really grateful to you. I will be your disciple for life. Do what you like. As you'd expect, it's awkward when you get thanked straight like this. I only trained him for my own sake. I say whatever, but don't lose to Uadaru. Make sure you win against that Chuyuni. When I said so, Montavo had a complicated expression. Well, about that, Kai. Is Uatero's and my battle going to happen? Of course it's going to happen, right? You can't stop it this late. The truth is, there were lots of doubts about the festival this time. The reason was that the Lord of Kura, Grisha, had gone insane. According to the rumors, Grisha claimed that his wife had been sleeping with men in town and his own butler. He even tried to put his wife and butler to the sword. Not only that, he even added that his house employees had conspired to cover up his wife's infidelity. He wanted them all put in prison. Punishments and fines were actually the prerogative of the Lord. However, his claims this time was too unfounded, so the Quira and Yuva churches joined hands and stopped him. "Milord, that was all your own persecution complex," they said. The Lord Grisha only allowed his daughter by his previous wife, Kirisha, near him and shut himself in his room. Sheesh, so weak-minded. That's why the idiot's always been dominated by women. Lord Grisha would probably be unable to continue his married life with Irene anymore after this. He's surely going to chase her away soon. What about the twins Yuyu and Lala? Will they be chased out together with her? Well, let's just see how things go. Incidentally, it should go without explaining, but the one who cornered Grisha this far was me. As Irene, I played around in town and fanned rumors, casting a shadow of doubt on Grisha's heart. Then, when Grisha was away, I transformed into him. I entered the mansion and went into the bedroom Irene was kept in. I then transformed into the elf and used magic to paralyze Irene. Finally, I transformed into the butler and waited for the Lord to come home. If Grisha only thought a little, then he'd notice something was amiss, and yet he crumbled much easier than I expected. He's truly a small fry. Well, you don't need to think too much, just focus your mind until the day of the fight. See ya. I said as much to Montavo and turned away, but then, Kai. I was called to a stop and turned around. Montavo had an unusually serious face on. Oh no, is he going to confess to me? I tensed, but there's no way that's going to happen. Montavo quietly said, Kai, I am really thankful to you. I will forever be. So whatever you're going to do from now on, I will never begrudge you. Please remember that. My ties with you will last a lifetime. I think I still underestimated him. Montavo was having suspicions that I was scheming something. Not only did he notice, he also would accept whatever happens. Yeah, I'll keep it in mind. Our bond is forever. There were lots of people tonight. Everyone was waiting for the festival that was going to take place starting tomorrow. Every shop was full. There were temporary misgivings about the festival, but it began peacefully. But these decorations are weird. Fantastic art were placed in town here and there. They were made of excess crops and animal bones. The harvest festival was probably something close to Halloween. Every culture holds festivals like these when the season changes. There was the sound of music playing from somewhere. The collaboration of the strings and percussion felt mysteriously good. I stood up in the middle of the throng. As I did, the people's smiles were baked into my eyes. Depending on the situation, I might end up destroying this. This scene might well disappear. I disrupted the relations between the Lord, Irene, and the butler in order to save Kirisha. In order to distance the Lord from Irene and her daughters and get him attached to Kirisha. But not only that. I planned on weakening Kura itself. By removing the Lord's brain Irene and the butler, I will destabilize the town. That was the biggest goal of yesterday's act. The reason the foolish Lord Grisha could become Lord was because of his wife and butler. As long as they're there, the town won't be disturbed in any big way. And when Kura is peaceful, Reincarnators will come here one after another. The initial town for Reincarnators have an inseparable relation with them. As long as Kura and Sephiro hadn't been captured, the problem won't be cured. Even as I racked my brains over Uatero, it was no more than a coping measure. I weakened the Quira church when I handled Miria's case, and now the central pillar of the town, its lord, was shaken. And now if just one more disturbance happened. I left the main road and entered an alleyway. When I did, a lone girl walked to me from the other side. She looked like an elf, but she's really a high orc. I acted as if passing her by and handed her a letter. Send this to Luna. This game with Uatero will soon be over. The Liliko hasn't been coming over lately, hasn't she? And I thought I've finally got the chance to teach someone some life lessons. Like how to do a brilliant dogza or how to take the panties off your noisy friends. Those things are only useful for you. But I'm interested in the taking off panties things. Can you please teach me? Oh, are you interested? That's a philandering dick for you, always keeping ahead on technology. That desire to improve is one of the reasons I let you get more sex friends. Sleazicky. I don't mind teaching you, but there will be a catch. Let me borrow some pocket money. I don't have cash. I can't go buy things at the festival like this. Give me money. Didn't I just give you some the other day? How did you waste it all so fast? Because your existence is itself a waste. Well, I invested it in this. What Lou showed me was a bundle of paper that looked like horse race betting tickets. All the tickets had the name Montavo written on them. It seems she spent all her money on Montavo's win. You scum. Well, Montavo's gonna win, right? He's gonna beat Uatero down with Motoki's underhanded tricks, right? Hahi, I'm actually a small-time capitalist at heart, you know? I refresh myself with a bathtub of copper coins. So both your heart and body are dirty. So how's the betting rate looking? Uatero is bigger, but there are quite a lot who bet on Montavo. That noble's got quite the reputation. It was obvious, but the audience will be cheering for their bet. I shouldn't underestimate the voice of the crowd. In all sports, the home team with the louder cheers going for them have the overwhelmingly bigger win rate. Ideally, I wanted the crowd to be split 50-50, but, well, I suppose I should be glad he gets any. It's about time, Lou, let's go out. Lou and I together set out to town on the opening day of the Harvest Festival. There was nothing in particular that I had to do, so I genuinely went out to enjoy the festival. Gabra, Motoki, Luchan. We met up with Ruby at the meeting place in front of the shopping street. I felt like she was calling me names as soon as she saw me, but let's not sweat the small things. Ruby, how are your novels going? Have you reached the part where Motoki gets raped? It's going well. My grudge against Motoki's giving me plenty of motivation. Yes, I know that feel. When it's done, this Luchan is going to take responsibility and spread it around. I thought I heard an improper talk, but let's not worry about it. While buying these two somethings from the food stalls, I nonchalantly led them to a quiet place, towards an abandoned building. Hey, wait up, Motoki, why are we heading to a deserted place? The stands are that way. Well, you see, it's a festival. When it's a festival, isn't there something you have to do? I don't see how this relates to the festival. Why are you eagle-gripping my and Ruby's boobs? Well, you see, it's a festival. Like I said, why do you have to let out my and Ruby's boobs just because it's a festival? People are going to come. Well, you see, it's a festival. Are those the only words you know? No, don't pinch. Give it up, Luchan. Garbageki won't stop once he's like this. Unlike Lou, who's been protesting, Ruby had already given up. Ruby made no move to resist and only stared at me in embarrassment and heavy breathing. She had accepted the fact that her breasts are out in the open as a normal thing, the result of her training. Ruby was so gallant and great I ignored Lou and focused on her. I've already developed her this far, so I knew these breasts like the back of my hand. Both her breasts had my kiss marks at all times. Lou started kicking me, but let's leave her be. But you know, I've done it with these two several tens of times already, so, how should I put it? Frankly speaking, I'm a little bored. I might have gotten too pampered to be able to say this in front of two beauties half naked in public, but I can't help being bored. I have to change things around. I grabbed both their hands and started walking. Sleazyki. Hey Garbageki, there's people over there. We went to a place we were more in danger of being seen than the one earlier. We could hear the bustle and the sound of footsteps from right next to us. The two frantically tried to cover their breasts with their arms. Good, thanks to the tension I feel myself springing with tension. Also, hey, Deadkey, why are you tying me up? They'll see us. I used Ruby's clothes for rope and tied both her hands behind her back tightly. If someone were to come now, Ruby won't be able to hide her impressive breasts. Ruby frantically tried to twist her body and face the wall, but I held her shoulders and stopped her. Flustered, Ruby's eyes teared up. This is good. I'm getting aroused. Motoki, why only Ruby? Your legal wife is here? No, I don't mean I want to be tied up, but I still can't accept it. Well, if I tied you up, you can use your thief skills to set yourself free, right? And thus I neglected Lou for tonight and concentrated on Ruby. This big-breasted girl's been cheeky lately, so I decided to up on her discipline. No, don't pull it down. I pulled her skirt and panties down, making her completely naked. Now then. I then laid Ruby down on the ground. Then I used the skirt I stripped off Ruby and bound her feet. Garbageki, why my feet too? I can't move. Ruby, buck naked, with both hands and feet tied. In that state, she was laid down on the surface of the ground. Then see you later, Ruby. With Ruby naked and unable to move, I left her there with Lou and left the place. Hey, don't leave me. I ignored Ruby's pleas and turned the corner, then waited. Ruby would be on tetherhooks about now. If someone came and saw her like this, they would see her big breasts, they would ravish her. After waiting a while, I went back to Ruby. She was glaring at me with a red face. The sophisticated neglect play brought her anger to the top. She wasn't even able to speak and only trembled in rage. Sorry. I gently patted her head and untied her feet. And then WordPress says this is my 200th post. The Lord of Kura, Grisha, had locked himself in his room these few days. What in the world happened to him not even Grisha himself knew. His wife committed adultery. With men in town, and with his butler. Grisha saw it with his own eyes. Everyone at home should know it too. He wanted to pass judgment on them. These insolent fools who made fun of the Lord. However, there was no proof. Investigation by the church showed that both his wife and the butler had alibis. Unable to find evidence of his wife's infidelity, she said to him with a smile, "Rumors will be rumors." Impossible. I saw it myself. Lord Grisha was in distress. Was he going crazy? No, that's not possible. He couldn't believe anything. He couldn't trust anyone. Until now, whenever anything like this happened, he left it all to Irene. But now, Irene herself was the cause of the turmoil. Then how about his cute daughters Yuyu and Lala? But those girls, he still couldn't be sure they were his own daughters. The world became uncertain. But there's just one. Grisha could only believe in his daughter Kirisha. She stayed by his side. His daughter by his previous wife was the only one he was sure was her daughter. Even now, Kirisha was by his side. "Papa, are you all right?" Kirisha worriedly hovered over her father who was collapsed on the bed. The clear eyes of his daughter, they were very beautiful. He smiled despite himself. Then he heard cheers from outside the window. Grisha stood himself up and looked down from the window. Ah, the harvest festival is starting. There were lots of people. Footsteps and laughter repeatedly overlapped. Then he remembered, a memory floated onto the Lord's mind. Kirisha, do you remember? There was this one time you wanted to go to the festival, so you dressed as a commoner and the two of us went out to town. It was exciting, wasn't it? Kirisha never remembered anything like that, so maybe it's Yuyo or Lala Disuyo, Papa. Is that so? Not good, the Lord made a mistake. What to do? We should rule one, or not. Papa, your Lord jokes are back, Disuyo? Kirisha is relieved. Oh, you liked it. But, this is not good. To crack jokes in my position, I'm practically ordering my underlings to laugh. I'm a marquis too, though. Papa, you're on a roll, Disuyo? You're the best. Kirisha burst into laughter, slapping her hand on the floor. Right, she was always the easy one to laugh. Nobody but Kirisha ever laughed to his Lord jokes, so he rarely ever told them anymore. Kirisha was still rolling in laughter by the bedside. Ah, this is bliss. He suddenly thought. Even though he had such happiness being near Kirisha, why did he throw that happiness away? Thinking back, there was no particular reason. It just happened one day. The one who made it happen was. Grisha deeply regretted. Soon, this lovely daughter would leave his side, either to Uedaro or to Montavo. How did it turn out like this? It was all none other that. Because I was weak. Welko, oh my, have I seen you before? I was entering the Yuvan bar, church, when Miria greeted me. In bartender get-up, Miria saw me not as the little lamb, and tilted her head in doubt. This was the first time I met Miria in my own form. But even though I'm in another form, after doing it with me day in and day out, Miria felt something. I was sipping on liquor at the counter, and Miria stared at me, Jiaini. Too close. Little lamb's big brother? But you don't look alike at all, but you're somehow alike. Jiaini. Miria stared at me so close her nose was going to touch me. You, who is this little lamb? I feigned ignorance and asked. My, you want to hear about me and little lamb? What should I do, I wonder? I don't normally want to talk about this to men, but I somehow feel like it's okay to talk to you. Yufu, chuckled Miria. All right, I'll tell you. My and little lamb's dazzling sex days. Then Miria began telling the story. The story about the days of her seedy days doing all kinds of things with the little lamb. And you know, little lamb is an incredible pervert. Just the other day he put Rania and me upside down and did us both. While listening to Miria, I waited for the chance to talk. I wanted to say, I'm the little lamb. Miria still didn't know that I was the little lamb or that I could transform. It's not like there would be any problems keeping her like this, but I felt I should tell her soon. That's what I thought, for some reason. I don't know how it's going to be after the festival is over. Now is the time, I'll tell her now. I waited for the time, but... And then, the little lamb, of all things, dived under the counter, and licked me while I was serving guests. Geez, I thought I was going to leak a voice, such a naughty boy. Miria wouldn't stop talking. Only my and Miria's liquor decreased, and finally, she fell asleep. Miria fell flat on the counter and started breathing regularly. This woman's full of freedom too. I lent Miria a shoulder to get her in the back room. But then, little Laam, my, you've grown big, haven't you? If you're this big, then we can do lots and lots more things. I'm happy. Miria sleep-talked and mistook me for the little lamb. Or rather, she saw through me. Exactly because her consciousness had become dull that she could forgo reason and conclude that I'm the same person as the little lamb. Miria circled her arms around my neck and kissed me. Then she said, I wanna do it. All right. I picked Miria up and carried her in a princess carry. She asked me, so I'm not about to say no. And since we're doing it anyway, it'll be boring to do it on the bed. I want the thrill of doing it outside. I left the church into the back alley through the back door. I took Miria's bartending clothes off, stripping her naked. I casually put Miria's beautiful body down on the dirty alley. The gap was great. But, not enough. There's still room for improvement. Miria had recently been trailblazing through sexual experience. Merely doing it outside won't be enough for her. I smeared some nearby dirt on Miria, dirtying her skin. I then wrote some indecent words on her thighs with mud. Yes, this is good. Let's add more. I wrote everything that came to mind on her face and body. And finally, I made her do a peace sign with both hands. The double peace. All right. Preparation complete. I took my clothes off too. In front of me there was Miria with indecent words written all over her body. And doing a double peace too. Oops, forgot to put her legs in the M shape. I made her as sluttish as I could. Now the preparations are complete. I normally do it with Miria in the shape of a child, so it was refreshing to be able to do it as an adult. With my adult body, I hung over Miria. And then final day of the harvest festival. The day Uedaro will be fighting Montavo. The morning of that day, Montavo woke up earlier than usual. His head and body felt fresh. He didn't sleep again but left the bed. He opened the shutters and bathed in the day's still faint first light. In the cool light, he shut his eyes. Am I afraid? A question meant for his own self. The answer came immediately. No. His enemy was an unparalleled reincarnator, even backed by a goddess. But there was no fear in Montavo. He had spent every effort for this fight, and most of all, he was no longer fixated on the idea of winning. Not that he didn't want victory. He was staking his whole body and soul to try and defeat Uedaro. But that's not for the sake of fame, nor for a reward. All Montalvo wanted was the greatest fight with the strongest opponent. He wanted to know whether the sword arts he trained his whole life would be of use against a reincarnator. To clash life with life, elevate each other, to present a beautiful sword dance. That will be his repayment to Frein, and also to Kai. If he could, he wanted a confrontation with Uadaro in the wilderness with nobody around. With no obligations, just an exchange of swords. Mon, are you awake? The door to his room was opened and his sister entered. Good morning, sister. Mon, you've stopped being loud-mouthed? I don't really care, but say, Mon. I've made the invitee list to your wedding. I'm calling the Lord of Sephor, and the guild higher UPS. You have anyone else you want to invite? Maybe your girlfriends? I wanna see a cat fight. Montalvo's sister already began his wedding preparations. The one with the Lord's daughter Kirisha. Yes, that was how this all began. The engagement between Montalvo and Kirisha that had been arranged for several years and Uadaro calling for a stop to it. Kirisha will go on a journey with me? If you have a complaint, then fight me, he said. An obstruction by a reincarnator, but the Jingates utilized even that. They proceeded talks with the Lord's wife, making the fight a spectacle, and get a cut of the earnings. To rise again even when they fall. No, the Jingates don't possess the notion of stumbling to begin with. To pick up gold from the ground where they stumble, that was the way of the trader. And if Montalvo won against Uadaro and obtained Kirisha as planned, everything would be perfect. Big sis, about the wedding. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The Marquis blood, you know, the Marquis. His sister raised both hands and spun around. Her face looked so happy. Montalvo wasn't interested in the Kirisha girl. Only, she seemed so pitiful. It was the way of the world that the daughters of the strong would marry against their wishes, but to marry into the Jingates, what will become of her? She will be used, that's for sure. To suck dry all value out of anything that had value. That is how the Jingates are. He wanted to win against Uadaro, but if he did, an unrelated young girl would descend into unhappiness. If it comes to that. The morning of that day, Kirisha woke up on her father's bed. She was still sleepy. Her father next to her was still in dreamland. She had been listening to her father's lord jokes until late last night. Kirisha continued laughing, as if she had returned to the past. Since her mother died, her father seemed like a stranger. He had a gloomy face, and did not tell a single joke. His change was finalized when his new wife Irene came. He was captivated by his wife's charm, and became a yes-man, never deciding anything without her say-so, completely becoming an imbecile. His father mercilessly raised fines from the people. His reputation gradually worsened. But as long as his wife loved him, he was happy. Kirisha's father, who obeyed his wife, was like a machine, and in the eyes of Kirisha, who knew what her father used to be like, he looked vaguely fearful. He was afraid to displease his new wife, so he treated Kirisha like she didn't exist. He ended up focusing his love on his wife and her two daughters. Kirisha didn't begrudge him for that. He probably didn't have any other choice. People change, that was what Kirisha believed. Yesterday, Irene went back to her parents' home, and Kirisha's father loved her even more dearly. Her warm father had come back. She was happy, but Kirisha saw the situation with cold eyes. He will change again anyway. Kirisha looked over the town from the window, at the activity of the people that change day by day. I wanted a place that doesn't change. She wanted to leave on a journey with Uadaro and find a place she can be at peace. An absolutely unchanging utopia. A place without the fear of change. Her father would be sad, but Kirisha wanted to see her dream come true. Only, uncle. When she was reminded of the uncle, Lou, and Ruby, her chest tightened. So here, use it well. Well, it's going to be a big deal if it broke, though. I transformed into Kai and formally gave Montalvo the demon's sword Gulsiud in front of the arena entrance. Gulsiud seemed to have already considered Montalvo as a master, so it didn't struggle anymore. In fact, it seemed happier than when I was wielding it. Damn slut of a sword. Thank you very much. I will make sure I show you the best fight that won't be a shame to the sword. Okay, good luck. Having curtly said that, I separated from Montalvo. There's no more to say now. The sword knows all the important things. Having done my duty as his master, I got up to the audience seating on the Colosseum-like arena. I Motoki? This way, this way. Lu, who was sitting on a back seat, waved her arms at me. This transcendently multi-talented early rising Lu Chan had properly tagged seats? Well, it was harsh, you see. I had to wake up in the morning, you see. I think it's worth praising. It's worth giving me some more pocket money. The broke Lu stole glances at me. I ignored her and looked around. The audience, eyes bright in anticipation, cheered so loudly it hurt my ears. Even though the match hadn't yet begun, the arena was already enthused. Well, it's that good a match, after all. The Reincarnator, who had a goddess protection, and the swordsman Montalvo, whose fame was heard all the way to the continent. People obviously would want to know which of them was the stronger one. At a glance, it looked like the Uadaro fans had the greater numbers, but Montalvo's had the louder cheers. The adventurers Montalvo saved all put their whole might into their cheers as if to make up for their inferior numbers. Everyone was wild with enthusiasm. It's amazing though. So it's really because there's gambling involved. Really, they should be enjoying the match elegantly, I say. Someone highborn such as I only Uraaa Montalvo. I'm betting all my money on you, so you better win or else. As Montalvo entered the arena, Lu furiously shook her knife. I was really embarrassed, but since it's good that there are more voices cheering for Montalvo, so I let her be. Then, I sent my gaze towards a certain place in the stadium. The Lord was there. Next to him was Kirisha. Kirisha worriedly gripped her father's hand tight. In the middle of the jam-packed venue, Montavo was standing in the middle of the arena. Uedaro still hadn't entered. Normally, the lower-ranked person should be the one enter first. By all rights they should have entered together. But Montavo as the challenger wanted to challenge Uedaro. This order of entrance was what he wanted. There's no need to stand on ceremony. Vanity will only get in the way in the fighting ring. It doesn't matter who thought what. Only the clashing of bodies matters. Casually, Montavo surveyed the arena grounds. There were faint traces of the death match with Frine. Because of that fight Montavo became an adult. Kai praised him, saying you've come to be more of a protagonist, haven't you? Nowhere in the world would there be greater praise than that. I wonder if I could grow some more after fighting Uedaro. He had expectations. What kind of talk would they have through the sword today? A sword fight is like a dialogue. Iron clashes with iron, exchanging life views and experience with each other, elevating them both. Montavo could not wait for the fight to start and simulated the fight that was about to begin in his head however. He tried to bring Uedaro's face to mind, but he couldn't. Even though they had met many times, he for some reason couldn't remember the look of the Reincarnator. Why? Just then, the arena was wrapped in a loud cheer. Uedaro had entered. Montavo raised his head and gazed at the boy he was about to fight. Ah, I see. The moment he saw him, Montavo understood why he could not remember Uedaro's looks. His existence was just too light. He knew that Uedaro possessed great strength. But he had no depth. He didn't need to cross swords, he understood that with one look. Uedaro was a child beyond helping. He was sure Uedaro hadn't experienced anything. Never saw the dark side of life. And yet, he had acquired power. How pitiful. Uedaro entered and shouted. Oi bastard! You promised you won't marry Kirisha if I won, right? I definitely won't hand Kirisha to the likes of you. I'm going to protect her. Uedaro gave Kirisha a glance. He was drunk with himself. Montavo wanted to look away from such a Uedaro. He looked too much like how he himself was. I want to save him. Montavo became angry. Not to Uedaro, but though the person behind him. When a child makes a fool of himself, there will undoubtedly be an adult smiling in joy behind him. Today I will make Uedaro see. He hardened his resolve. And thus the battle began. I'll show you my power. Immediately, Uedaro produced a fireball over his upturned palm. Guys with cheats, seriously. I muttered in the audience seat. In the ring, Uedaro immediately went full power. Fireballs, water balls, balls of earth and lightning, light and void. Uedaro fired off elemental balls one after the other. All his balls contained great amounts of magic power. Why did he have that much magic power? Where did he train? I feel like an idiot just for asking. This was what cheats are. If you have the backing of a goddess you can use as much magic power as you like, and you're exempt from training. It makes you feel stupid for working hard. But he's still that strong, huh? Up until now I successfully took 2 of Uedaro's girls. I also weakened the choir church in town. I should have whittled quite a lot of his power but Uedaro was still this overwhelming. If I transformed into Kai and challenged him, I probably wouldn't last 10 seconds before being killed. Every time Uedaro launched an attack, the audience cheered. Yay! The brilliant and impressive elemental light caught everyone's eyes. However, unhurt, huh? Alright. Montavo wasn't hurt at all. He took all the elemental balls and stood there like nothing happened. The sacrament cage hanging from his neck was able to protect its master from the Reincarnator's attack waves. Sacrament cage, such a wonderful item. Its origin was not really known, but I'm sure it must be a goddess handmade item. For now, at least this means the first stage of the fight was over. The magic cheat Uedaro was unable to win with magic. Objectively speaking, this situation benefits Montavo. But Reincarnators aren't so easy they just stop there. The real fight begins now. In the ring, Uedaro stopped launching magic and said to Montavo, you bastard, I heard magic don't work on you, but it's really true, huh? But even so, I'm not gonna lose. I have shed blood practicing with my companions in order to defeat you, and I've learned the way of the sword. Uedaro took out a sword from his waist. I will fight to protect Kirisha. I definitely won't give up. We fight with the sword now. Uedaro's declaration made the audience erupt in cheers. Their voices caused a rumble in the ground. A hero, declaring that he will fight even at a disadvantage to protect a woman, sure, that'd make him look cool. I looked at Kirisha in the Lord's seat. After Uedaro said that, did she fall for Uedaro again? But Kirisha's eyes were cold. She was staring at the arena with an annoyed expression, the lights going out of her eyes. I know those eyes. The cute girls in class have those when they look at a Chuyuni yelling out loud in class. Scary. I recalled the things that happened in my past and gripped Liu's arm next to me without meaning to. Say Liu, look at Kirisha's eyes. Why are girls so cold to Chuyunis? Sure, he may be annoying when he said he was going to protect her, but wouldn't she be at least moved? Well, if he really was fighting hard for her sake then she'd be a little moved, I guess. But you see, when he's just making her into an excuse so he could show his own great skills she'd obviously look like that. Don't you just want to fight in public and get people to say you're amazing? Aren't you just trying to say I'm cool, I can also fight with the sword, then say it like it is and fight for fun? Something like that. Don't get me involved, creep. Women are scary. Montavo unsheathed his sword and stared at Uedaro, not focusing his sight on a point, but widened his vision and looked at every part of him, gathering information about his opponent. the very image of inexperience. One's skill with the sword is reflected in how one stands, where one puts one's feet, how one holds one's sword, how one's joints are positioned. Uedaro completely failed in all counts. Uedaro was currently telling the audience what kind of hard practice he's been doing, but he probably wanted to learn a showy killing move. Real sword training is hopelessly plain and a very long-term thing. Endless repetition. Maddening humiliation. Learning a technique to get you a leap forward will surely make you fall behind later, which is why there's nothing to it but steady advance. No, not just the sword, all practice is like that. Uedaro did not know that. He didn't know at all, which means, he did not know life at all. This goes beyond pitiful. Montalvo had tried to run away from the ordinary path once, so he might not have the qualifications to call others out on it. But still, Montalvo chagrined at himself for that. He hated himself who ran away. He used that anguish as nourishment, and here he stood now in this place. Uedaro never anguished. Then that means, his life amounted to nothing. He grimaced despite himself. He wanted to release this clown, no, puppet called Uedaro as soon as he could. However, that would probably not be easy. His opponent was a reincarnator after all. A person who trampled over people's efforts, ignoring reason and logic. I'm coming at you, you bastard. Watch my sword. Uedaro suddenly stepped forward. Not even a bow at him who waited for him to unsheath his sword. The worst manners. But that's how children are. Montalvo wasn't angry. There was no room for him to have superfluous emotions. The attack came like rushing wind. Fast. He dodged by a hair's breadth. Some of his hair was cut. 2 blows. 3 blows. 4 blows. 5 blows. Thrusts came one after another. He dodged them by reflex. His eyes couldn't see them. Uraaa. He received Uedaro's 6th blow, a thrust aimed straight at his torso, with the demon sword. What dreadful power. Unable to bear it, Montalvo's body was pushed back. It made tracks in the ground. The 7th blow, a thrust to the face, he dodged by twisting his neck. He took the 8th, his body was pushed back. He took the 9th and thought he was going to be blown away. Another thrust followed. Uedaro continued thrusting his thin sword. The speed and power was overwhelming him. If he lost focus for just one moment, that moment will decide his defeat. Receive, 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 receive. He received them by reflex. He entrusted the movements all to his body. His consciousness merely followed after. Montalvo felt like an outside observer, watching his own movements after the fact. Receive. The moment he took the blow, he twisted the demon's sword and parried it behind him. His body did this all on its own. I see, that makes it easier to fight. Receive, parry. Receive, parry. Receive, parry. Receive, parry. Receive, parry. Receive, parry. Every move had his life at stake. The moment he made a mistake, that moment everything will end. There would be no chance to recover. He brought his focus to its limits, sharpening his 5 senses. Ah, I can hear the voices. Even though here he was, staking his life, the voices from the audience reached his ears. There were lots of cheers for Uedaro. The successive high-speed thrusts excited the audience. Why can't they all see that Uedaro's way of being is strange? Just like a child who couldn't see what practice would lead to, showing technique that surpasses others. It's obviously strange, isn't it? Why do people praise him? Amazing, amazing. He's just a child swinging a given power around. Why did they so honestly praise him? So long as he had power they'll praise and lift him up high. Isn't that the reason why this child's still empty thus far? He's allowed anything since he's a good guy. Killing enemies with a power he's merely given, gathering women like dolls, but so long as he put on a pretense of being an ally of justice, everything was forgiven. Stop kidding me. There's no way that's okay. Isn't that going to make him rotten? And all who saw it is going to become worse and worse. Somebody, scold this stupid child. Hey. Montalvo swept away Uedaro's thrust. Uedaro's body was pushed back. Receiving his first blow, Uedaro looked terribly disturbed. The cheat owner Uedaro had likely never experienced being unable to take an enemy's blow. Having never fallen into a predicament, his mind was weak. Montalvo's eyes glittered. I'll teach you, I'll scold you, and I'll definitely not lose to you. I have to bring this child's humanity back. Gua, right there, beat him up, do your best my dividend, Monta. Work hard for the sake of my pocket money. Say Lu, will you shut up for a copper coin? Yahoo, I'll shut up for my entire life. You have a cheap life. She went to buy beer with the coin I gave her. Apparently Lu didn't possess the notion of savings. Since the idiot disappeared and it became quiet again, I went back to watching the arena. Having shifted to attack, Montalvo assaulted Uedaro. He's less powerful and agile compared to Uedaro, but Montalvo had experience. They differed in the amount of experiences they went through, and thus their mental strength. He was pushed back at first, but having gotten used to it, this was what happened. It developed just as expected. Montalvo wasn't so easy an opponent that he could be pressured by a difference in status value. Monta's quite good, isn't he? Yes, that little scoundrel's grown up. It was worth raising him. Nodding to herself, the idiot orc chugged her beer down. Oi Lu, didn't you say you'll keep quiet for your whole life? Ah, I was born again just now. I'm Lu Chanver now. Nice to. I want my money back. I already drank it. I'll deduct the copper from her pocket money later. First, Montalvo. Montalvo firmly occupied his flank, backing Uedaro down with standard sword moves. Uedaro fought back every now and then, but Montalvo properly dealt with him. He took Uedaro's thrust with the flat of his blade and deflected the shock behind him. Uedaro's sword fighting is weird, isn't it? He keeps thrusting like it's a spear. Yeah, he's probably imitating Lugindal. Lugindal, the main heroine in Uedaro's narrative, a swordswoman. She used a rapier-like thin sword, and fought using thrusting moves. Since Uedaro had a brilliant swordswoman by his side, their fighting styles should of course be similar. I expected Uedaro to imitate Lugindal's sword moves to an extent and made proper countermeasures. I transformed into Lugindal again and again, instructing Montalvo in that form. After being attacked with thrusts thousands of times, the way to counter them had been carved into Montalvo's nerve pulses. Thrusts are attacks that only work the first time. You'd be instantly killed if you're not used to it, but if you are, it's not worth much. Well, I never expected Uedaro to copy Lugindal's sword moves verbatim, but this was a good development for us. Easy to handle. In all likelihood, Uedaro doesn't have much of what he say to be himself. Since he had nothing to aim for, he tentatively copied the great person next to him, Lugindal. That's all he could do. There are kids like that sometimes in theater. They had nothing of themselves, so they could only copy the acts of the people around them wholesale, never doing anything but that. Strangely, those kids invariably, as if on purpose, made the same mistakes. Repeating the same mistakes, the same injuries. They had nothing of themselves, so their sense of self is thin. Since they never thought anything on their own, once they fall they crumble down far. Uedaro in the ring, too, monotonously thrusted at Montalvo, and Montalvo easily dealt with them. He could just change his approach if this one doesn't work, but since he had never fallen into a predicament, he was definitely lacking in coping power. But still, Uedaro wasn't so easy as to go down with just this. The most fearsome thing about reincarnators is their luck. Or should I call it the power of fate, the power that attracts opportunity. It's scary. When cornered, they would conveniently awaken their true power and turn the tide of battle. Montalvo had awakened to be a protagonist, too, but how far could he oppose Uedaro's opportunism? Take this. The strongest, and yet the weakest. That was how Montalvo saw Uedaro. The sword skills the goddess gave him was overwhelming, but he doesn't understand the subtleties of battle. His physical status was at the counterstop, but his mental strength was in tatters. Only getting hold of a high power value by chance and swinging that around, just like a child. Hey, tisk. Montalvo raised a yell and Uedaro panically jumped aside. That was an obvious feint. Frine would never have fallen for it. He was strong, but his weaknesses were much too weak. Montalvo recalled something Frine told him long ago. Bakhan, you cut a chain by the weakest link. The weakest part is the strength of the chain. People are the same. No matter how overwhelming their power is, if there's any rotten parts on them, then that part is their durability. No matter how strong the rest of them is, you can cut them there. Montalvo decided to shake Uedaro's weakest part, his mental strength. Small feints, flank, counter, enticing him with small tricks. Toying with Uedaro who's not used to competitions. Damn you cowardly bastard. Uedaro criticized Montalvo as if he had nothing to blame himself. This isn't cowardly, this is a fight. How to block the enemy's strong point, that's the essence of fighting. To begin with, technique is the tactics of the weak. Underhanded acts so that the weak could triumph over the strong. Sure, he did some things that shouldn't be done. But to make so much noise over just this, doesn't that mean he couldn't do anything? Damn you, are you a man? I'm not giving Kirisha to the likes of you. Uedaro couldn't bear being stuck in a situation where he couldn't do anything. Just like a child throwing a tantrum. Unmanageable, like a child when it's fired up. If this went on, Montalvo would be able to win against Uedaro. However, I'm not going to lose. Uedaro took a jump back and roared like a beast. A cloud of dust danced from the Motoki he burst out. A belt of power flowed like a torrent. In an instant, Uedaro transformed into someone else entirely. Oi bastard, dirty coward. You've gotten really full of yourself, haven't you? But it ends here. I'll show you my true power. Even though it's not your power, that was something given. It wasn't something he won on his own, but how could he be so proud of it? Montalvo had power given to him by other people, too, the Sacrament Cage and Gulsiut. But he didn't receive it for free. He obtained it by walking the path on his own two legs, which was why he could firmly declare that it belonged to him. He wanted to teach this child that joy. Therefore, I won't lose to the likes of a goddess power. Uedaro roared and rushed in like a chariot. In less than a second, the Reincarnator was already right in front of Montalvo. Fast? Eat this, you bastard. He launched a thrust. Boom, the ground shook from his powerful step. Montalvo received the thrust with the demon sword blade right away. There was a loud boom. Then a shock he's never felt before. His arm numbed and his consciousness nearly flew away. A wah-on sound rang inside his ear. His body flew backwards. His feet scraped the ground, and he somehow remained in the arena. It was like a meteorite. A normal sword would be destroyed by that. Ha. Montalvo exhaled. He was sweating all over his body. His stamina was drained with just one hit. That was too abnormal no matter how you put it. The power of Uedaro's sword was much higher than before. He heard how reincarnators gain power UPS in the middle of battle. But he never would have imagined that it could raise by this much in such a short time. The power of the sword normally don't rise that easily. It takes a long time forging your footing, building your foundation, and then continuous practice swings. Continue that for years and your power will rise just a little bit. There are those whose power don't rise. Most of them, in fact. A human's growth is that kind of thing. Which is why life is interesting. However, the power of Uadaru's sword rose and rose. I will defeat you for sure. I will save Kirisha. I will be the strongest. Uadaru never thought there was a problem with him growing so quickly. Effort would obviously be rewarded. With strong conviction, people could reach anywhere. That's what he believed. Such a small world. A world where effort is always rewarded is hell. That's why he's forever a child. Effort that was spent in vain is what makes people grow. If you don't know defeat, you won't ever be an adult, right? If when you closed your eyes, no regrets appeared behind your eyelids, that means your life is meaningless. After repeated thrusting blows, Montavo's body was thrown about in the ring like a piece of scrap. His vision and consciousness already went hazy. It felt like the Reincarnators' haphazard strikes were going to erase his existence itself. But still, he couldn't give up the fight. Because I'm an adult. Montavo, who was practically flying in the air, somehow got his 2 feet back on the ground. He had already lost his sense of balance. The ground felt unsteady. The moment he lost focus, he will likely tumble down onto the ground. Even so, he won't lose sight of Uadaru. If Montavo lost sight of Uadaru, nobody could find him anymore. He will only become a peerless plaything. I'm not giving up on you. Montavo stared at Uadaru. He looked at the Reincarnator's face. Sharp eyes, a crooked smile. He looked like a devil. And yet, only his eyes were clear. The face of a child in a quarrel. Children fight for their own desires. Pure like a beast, a squabble without substance. For a child, that's fine. But adults can't have it that way. A fight between adults should be a clash of ideas and positions. Otherwise there's no meaning to growing up. But Uadaru couldn't do that. Because Uadaru is empty. There's nothing about Uadaru, besides a child who came from another world. No history, sans histoire. Nothing. Too light? What did you? Uadaru widened his eyes and had a look of shock in his face. He looked like he couldn't believe Montavo took and stopped his blows. Reality is heavy, you know. Montavo pushed on Uadaru's sword and pressed forward. Slowly but surely, Uadaru was pushed back. Uadaru launched another thrust, recklessly unleashing another blow. Thrust and blow Montavo away somehow, but Montavo endured it. The blow with the goddess blessing behind it, he repelled it with his sword blade. This is what he wanted to tell him. Adults, reality, aren't things that you can easily make disappear. What? Why, won't you go away? Uadaru fell into confusion. Looking from their conditions, Uadaru was at an overwhelming advantage. Montavo was all in tatters, but Uadaru's body was still uninjured. But Uadaru's mind was already on the verge of breaking. He can't win easily, there's a chance he might lose. It seems like he couldn't accept that. To Uadaru, a fight is merely a place to show off his greatness and his large-heartedness. A fight isn't something so frivolous. Montavo continued pressing forward. He hardened his resolve to not be blown away for a second time. A deathmatch is not supposed to be something you can take so lightly. His experience, anguish, and weight of memories became a tangible mass and stopped Uadaru's blows. Though meager, Montavo was still a protagonist. A man who could change the world, even by a little bit. And then, Montavo swung his sword. The counterblow slashed Uadaru in the right arm. For the first time, Uadaru received a blow. But it was shallow. It wouldn't be enough to decide the match, right? Blood. Uadaru grimaced, seeing the blood flow from his right arm. It was only a tear on the skin, but he acted like he was gravely injured. Seeing the disgraceful sight of his battle opponent, Montavo wanted to look away. To a warrior, this kind of wound is an everyday thing. They wouldn't be shaken by this in any way. However, it wasn't the case for Uadaru. Even though he had killed many, this reincarnator never ever received even a tiny injury. So you don't even know pain, do you? There are several basic structures to a story. The stories people come up with are the same throughout the ages and places. People's brains, although they have some differences, were basically similar in structure. It follows, then, that the stories they make are similar to an extent. One of the basic structures of stories is called the leaving and returning. Heroic sagas are mostly structured in this way. This is the general gist of it. There was a peaceful world and a child born in that world. The world was destroyed and the child was forced to set off on a journey. They met with the mentor and trained with them. At the end of training, they would receive a weapon or a killing move, and would be reborn as the strongest existence. They would continue on their travels, gathering helpers, defeating all kinds of enemies, and grow. Finally, they would obtain the MacGuffin, the objective of their journey. After many twists and turns, they would return to their original world. They differ in the details, but most follow along those lines. Even reincarnation stories popular on the web in Japan also follow this form. It was not necessarily done consciously, but before they knew it, it became like that. A human's thoughts are free and yet they are not. However, novel bins possess a certain characteristic. The protagonists, tempted by the goddess to go to another world, never return to Earth. They never return to Earth. They never even thought about returning to Earth. I once thought, why? Then I came to a conclusion. It's because they never grew up. In stories, the greatest goal of the journey was growth. The reason why reincarnators never returned was because they never achieved the goal of growing up. Because they had been given cheat skills by the goddess from the start, the novel-bin protagonist's growth was stunted. They were always wrapped in their overwhelming power like a baby in its mother's womb, or a chick inside an egg. They were isolated from the world. Thus no matter what events they experienced, they would never accumulate experience. Always a child. Rather, their attitudes became worse and worse. They were praised, amazing, even though they had no substance, and they no longer considered that a problem anymore. Finally, they became a token character. So in order to save such an idiot, has to be that way, I muttered, looking down onto the ring. Montalvo chased after the fleeing Uedaro. Blood, wait, time out, I'm bleeding. Even though he wasn't greatly wounded, Uedaro was shocked by the exsanguination. He was all flustered, holding down his arm. It's only blood, deal with it. Cutting Uedaro off, Montalvo closed his distance. If he rushed in now he could do a great deal of damage, and yet Montalvo only unleashed the minimal degree of attack. He's in teacher mode, is he? Sheesh, what a softie. It's hot? It hurts. Having his left arm cut off, Uedaro cried miserably. Because it hurt. That's right, it hurts when you're wounded. Remember that stupid brat, I muttered. He felt pain, he felt the fear of death. Montalvo taught him that. Montalvo is trying to bring Uedaro back to humanity. In order to bring a reincarnator protected by the goddess back to humanity, they had to first know that the shell is not perfect. They won't gain anything if they stayed in a perfectly safe place. To grow, one needs to understand pain, and thus they would have to understand a human's pain. Reincarnators are terribly cruel things. Even though they were born in peace on Earth, the moment they came to another world they committed mass murders. They forgot their own pain because of the powers given by the goddess, and thus forgot other people's pain. They lacked the power to empathize. People who stand in an inviolable space would be the most cruel. It hurts, right? It's painful, right? This is what you've been doing to demi-humans. Be aware of your sins. You slaughterer, murderer. I looked over around the audience seats. It was wrapped in a strange atmosphere. The once boisterous arena had now gone rather quiet. Only Uedaro's companions were shouting loudly. The main heroine Legindel and the supporting cast were shouting for Uedaro to somehow stay calm. Uedaro, take some distance. Calm down. Ready your sword. But the voices didn't reach him. A child, once brought to such confusion, won't regain their calm so easily. Finally, discouraged voices started streaming down from the audience. What the hell's that? So shameful. What's he fussing about? It's just blood. He looks like he's going to cry. The discouraged voices soon turned into jeering. Fight properly, the mean voices said. They splendidly changed their stance. Well, humans are things like this. There's no one more untrustworthy than those who are attracted to power. They were simply beaten down to submission. Such a worthless bunch. Their voices surely reached Uedaro. I wonder if he heard the true nature of humans. I'm sure Uedaro had been pampered ever since he came to this world. Since he had power, people were gentle towards him. Because they treated him kindly, Uedaro decided to treat them kindly as well. He used his power and protected them. However, now that he's being jeered at, what will become of his mind? He's seen the ugly side of humans with his own eyes, but will he still think of saving people? If he doesn't, then you're a fake, Uedaro. What is wrong with this mood? Montalvo noticed the change in the arena. The cheering for Uedaro stopped and horrible derision took its place. Some of the people showered Uedaro with jeers mixed with hate. Some reincarnator you are. Worthless. Is your big mouth all you got? The pressure against Uedaro was strong. They attacked the fighting reincarnator like he killed their parents. Even though they didn't fight, such a disgrace. But Montalvo understood their feelings. They're envious, aren't they? Everyone held envy towards the reincarnator Uedaro who was given cheat skills by a goddess. They can't help but want to trip him up. Of course they would. Nobody wouldn't feel anything when someone who had what they don't was right there next to them. While thanking him and calling him Sir Hero, with their mouths, their hearts always held hatred, saying don't get cocky you damn brat. But they had never publicly criticized him until now. Uedaro was too strong and too much of a good person that they couldn't find a gap to take advantage of. But now, Uedaro was having a hard fight in the arena. With a warped expression like a normal person, struggling, the protagonist began to return to being a human. The audience probably thought, if we want to jeer at him, it's now or never. If there's a leg where their hands could reach, then they'd trip it with all they've got. That's how humans are. Damn brat, that all you got after all huh? Must have been coincidence you beat those orcs up until now. Lying bastard, you're actually weak aren't you? Uedaro was bewildered. While pressing down on his bloodied hands, he looked around with his brows in a shape. Why, Uedaro made a soundless shout. After all the help I gave, after all the requests I've made come true, why do you attack me when I'm having it hard? Montalvo saw Uedaro's expression and cast his eyes down. To be confused with just this child is too ignorant of humans. Uedaro didn't know this, but people are such beings to start with. They quickly forget their gratitude and keep holding on to grudges. Even though they became envious all on their own, they strike against the one they're envious of. Always playing the victim. They're beyond help. The people of this town aren't particularly horrible. Humans, the masses, they're the same anywhere in the world. There are those who lost hope against the wretchedness of humans. There's no reason to help these idiots who are lower than animals. That is true, too. However, if you knew the wretched nature of humanity, and yet you still want to give them salvation, then you have the heart of a hero. Uedaro, what will you do? Montalvo continued to stare at the young boy in front of him. Uedaro is being tested now. If Uedaro could continue loving humans even when faced with the true nature of the masses, this boy would have climbed up a level. If that's the case, Montalvo doesn't want to win anymore. In that case, it'll be fine. To quietly watch the birth of a true hero, Montalvo had the resolve for that. However, the light disappeared from Uedaro's eyes. His mouth gaped wide like the knot of a tree and he didn't even so much as twitch. Looks like his thought processes had stopped. Meeting the true nature of people for the first time since he came to this world, it was too much to take. It was clear that Uedaro's mind was weak. He probably thought of the people around him as devices made to offer thanks to himself. There's no way that's the case. There's no person in this world that doesn't have pride. Not a single human in the world would be satisfied just praising other people's awesomeness. Nobody would be kind to you forever just because you helped them once. Because he always saw other people as mob characters, he came to that misunderstanding. Uedaro, you fake. How much did you pay the orcs off you, dumbass? Your fake magic's the reason I lost my job, you idiot. Go home, brat. Go back to training again. The mood in the arena was that of rejection against Uedaro. The ill will swallowed the reincarnator like a whale. It was advantageous for Montalvo. If he rushed in now, victory would conveniently fall to his lap. But is that all right? Montalvo asked himself. He thought back, what was the reason he stood here in this arena? Was it for his family's fame? His own fame? To have Kirisha in his hand? No, none of those. All Montalvo wanted was the best fight. To have a clash of iron and wool against a boy blessed by the goddess, a supreme dance, a heroic song. A sight that he wouldn't be ashamed to show a certain woman somewhere. That's right, then there's only one thing to do. Montalvo took a deep breath and raised his voice at the audience. Shut up, you lowly peasants, he roared, and the audience's jeering stopped. Don't ruin this fight with your dirty voices. Your faces and hearts being dirty is enough. Montalvo rained abuse on the audience, insulting them. Montalvo was really angry at them. It's true that Uedaro was an idiot. Boasting the power he merely was given by the goddess, got cocky, and massacred many of his enemies. He was flattered, got carried away, and dirted the field of battle, making a mockery of people's efforts. But it's also true that he saved people. Uedaro's acts saved a great many people. His achievements should not be forgotten. The reason Uedaro was fighting here now was also to save Kirisha. Even if he only did it for the recognition, it was still a fine deed. It's not something you should deny from a safe vantage point. You dirty peasants should just go to a church and repent. Pray to the goddesses that you'll be reborn in the next life with a larger heart. Even though it may be too much for you, Montalvo said with a scornful tone. The audience became irate and started jeering at Montalvo. Don't get cocky just because you're a noble. I thought you were nice, so this is your true self. We were cheering for you. The hell's wrong with you? You rotten noble? The Jingades can just go under. Now the insults rained on Montalvo, but to the merchant Montalvo, this much was not a problem. Picking fights was an everyday thing for him. It was his friends that betrayed him. The mental strength of a merchant who was bathed in resentment day in and day out was hard like steel. Montalvo raised both his hands and agitated the audience further, focusing the hate on himself. Then the cheering for Uedaro began again. They probably judged better the stupid reincarnator than the corrupt noble. Flipping their hand is the killer move of the masses. They changed their opinion quickly. Uedaro looked around as if perplexed. The change still hadn't registered in his head. Ready yourself, Uedaro. Montalvo calmly addressed Uedaro, his eyes saying, I don't have a grudge against you. Even with a puzzled expression, Uedaro readied his sword as he was told to. He must actually be an honest kid underneath. Now then. Montalvo took a breath. Let's finish this. When you swing a sword, what's important is your lower body. You swing the sword with your legs. That was what Montalvo was taught since he was young. You rotate your spine by bending your heels, knees, and hips. When you do, your arm will swing the sword by itself. The better your back rotates, the stronger and faster your sword swing will be, and the less useless movements it will make. If you have mastered the ideal form, you will finally be able to swing a sword with no motion. Montalvo was still far from that level. He might never reach it in his entire life. Thus he covered the parts where he was inadequate with other parts. His talents, life experience, and his master's teachings. With that agglomeration he surpassed the reincarnator. Hey! Montalvo's sideways sweep collided with Uedaro's thrust. Sparks flew like lightning. His hand was numb and he was attacked by dizziness. His body staggered. But he gripped the ground with the 5 toes in his boots. He held his ground. Uedaro also held his ground. That's a reincarnator for you. He's worth fighting against. The next blow. Both swords clashed. A loud boom shook the air. The ground cracked and feet carved the ground. Shockwaves spread with the rivaling swords at the center of it. Both fighters held their ground. The next blow, and then the next one. This couldn't be called a sword match anymore. It was the best and stupidest fight, like firing cannons at each other's at point-blank range. Nobody moved back. Neither Montalvo nor Uedaro were willing to take a step back. They both knew that if they stepped back once they could not step forward again. They would cast their shadows on each other and fight for as long as blood flowed within them. There was no talking there. One of them was much too immature for talk. That was why they clashed swords. Colliding weapons, without a word exchanged. Clash, 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 clash. Watch and learn. Montalvo wished as he swung his sword. He wanted Uedaro to learn from him at least a little bit. If he walked the steady path by himself, he will one day gain power equal to what the goddess blessed him with. Montalvo wanted Uedaro to know that. When that time comes, Montalvo will finally be able to talk with Uedaro. But now was not the time. Clash, 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 clash. The grounds fell silent as death. Not a single person uttered a word. They held their breaths and watched the fairytale-like fight progressed, and then, Uedaro stepped back just a few millimeters. Montalvo stepped forward just as much. Uedaro moved back a few more millimeters. Uedaro's expression warped. I don't get it. Their strength was about the same. But why was his sword being pushed back? He couldn't understand the reason why. It was simple. Montalvo and Uedaro were an adult and a child. Montalvo's body was just a little bit bigger. An equal match will be decided by physical difference. The factors that would decide a match were always simple. A few millimeters, another few, and yet another few. Uedaro stepped back. He was pushed back by the adult's pressure. Tisk. Uedaro bit his lip. Why was I pushed back just because he lived longer? He thought. The likes of an adult. But just growing up to be an adult is a great thing in itself. Growth itself can be said to be a heroic act. If you don't like it, then grow. Montalvo glared at the child in front of him. Burning away your life when you're still a child is idiotic. I will end that fake story that will stop your growth right here. No. Montalvo's sword sent Uedaro's sword flying. Uedaro became unarmed, but the boy still didn't give up. Uedaro created an elemental ball in his hand and recklessly threw it at Montalvo. But Montalvo wasn't perturbed. He knew the sacrament cage will prevent magic from working against him. He won. It was Montalvo's complete victory. All right. It's Monta's win. I'll buy meat and booze and gems and go travel. Lou wrapped both her arms around my neck and jumped. She was already deciding on what she was going to use the winning money for. Counting her chickens before they're hatched. Montalvo was holding a sword, while Uedaro was unarmed. The outcome was clear. The audience simultaneously cheered and the arena became rowdy. Everyone raised as much voice as their lungs could, cheering for both combatants. While pushing Liu's face away, I looked towards where Kirisha was. How does the Lord's daughter react to Uedaro's defeat? She's strong. Kirisha paled and was shaken, but she kept her cool. Montalvo's victory meant her marrying into the Jingates. She can't hope for happiness. She won't know how they'll be using her. But still, she accepted that life. I'm sure Kirisha knows. Such is life. Happiness is an illness you can only catch while you're young. Once you're past that phase, all that awaits you is deterioration. That was Kirisha's view on life. While speaking about hope and expectations on Uedaro, she had already given up. But right that moment. What's happening? Lu gripped me stronger. Of course, it was because there was a strong wind. Even though the skies were clear, the arena was wrapped in a typhoon. And because of that, something impossible happened. What? Uedaro's sword that Montalvo had sent flying danced in the wind and rested back in Uedaro's hand. The weapon came back to Uedaro's hand. Which means, Uedaro can still fight. The match continues. Hey, it was so tragically convenient. If this happened in a shonen manga, the readers would go into a riot. A match that looked like it had ended began again because of a deus ex machina. The audience didn't seem like they knew what was going on and was at loss for words. Even Uedaro himself watched the sword fall back into his hand in disbelief. Montalvo hurriedly prepared to fight. The match begins again. Goddess Quira? Say what you like, but she was exposing herself too much. The goddess was desperate for Uedaro to win. She couldn't let him lose. Because her progeny's defeat meant her own defeat. Hold on. This is way too horrible. No matter what you say. You can't just do whatever you like just because you're a goddess. Calm down, Lu. Like hell I can calm down. If they're allowing this, then anything's allowed? If the goddesses can just do anything, then there's no meaning to us struggling. Calm down? Well, at least we know this now. I heaved a sigh and calmed my heart. Yes, this was not outside of my expectations. Rather, it was completely within my initial plan. In a normal fight, Uedaro with the goddess protection won't lose. That was the absolute law about reincarnators. An inviolable precondition. Montalvo couldn't have won. He could come close to a reincarnator by being a protagonist, but still, victory would go to the other side in the end. I understood that, but I still had hope somewhere. Because Montalvo had become such a fine man. But it's useless after all. No matter how many times Montalvo beat Uedaro down, he will conveniently rise again. Montalvo will exhaust himself and be cornered to defeat. Therefore, before that happens, I need to proceed with the plans. Montalvo. I once again gazed at Montalvo, who was fighting fate. What is he to me? A disciple? No. A pawn? Not that, either. Probably. Then, Montalvo, you are my one and only friend. TN, trigger warning, contains mild gore. In front of him stood Uedaro, who had gotten his sword back. He should have blown the sword away and decided the match already. Montalvo was confused, but he somehow got his breathing back in order. This was within expectations. Anything can happen in a fight with a reincarnator. Kai told him that. At least to the extent that the fight starts again. The arena fell silent. Nobody could believe what just happened before their eyes. Even Montalvo couldn't believe it, but even if he didn't, he had to fight. He filled his limbs with fighting spirit again. Then, a fight unfolded just like before. Uedaru thrusted, Montalvo sideswiped. Ugh. Montalvo let out a groan from his throat. Uedaru's sword strength increased again. The goddess protection kept on increasing. Every time their swords clashed, Montalvo was pressed and pushed back whether he liked it or not. It was beyond a level he could reasonably oppose already. Uedaru was heading towards a predetermined victory. Fighting that was like opposing a force of nature. But he couldn't run away. He couldn't lose, for the sake of this child. Swords clashed. There was a shock. A comfortable floating feeling. When Montalvo came to, Montalvo's consciousness had detached from his body and was watching the arena from above. He was being pushed back and Uedaru was pushing him back. What in the world is this? The boy's body was wrapped in golden thorns. That was probably the sign of the goddess warped love. Uedaru gained power from the thorns, and in exchange, his life became a plaything. Kai, this child, I can't. Montalvo's consciousness went back to his body. Immediately, he received the sword approaching him. He clenched his teeth and held against the rock-heavy blow. Blood spurted out from his wounds. There was a crack sound. He must have broken a bone somewhere. But I can't be timid, Montalvo reprimanded his own heart. Even if I had no chance to win, I couldn't give up. I definitely won't lose. No matter how many times Uedaru rose up again, he will knock him down that many times. While watching Montalvo in the arena, I once again thought about his existence. Montalvo Gilgingate. The third son of a noble. One of the few prodigies blessed with talent. I was sure the narrative Montalvo should have gone through went like this. Being trained in the sword by Frine, he would separate from his family due to an incident, and set off on a journey with her. Then he would save people as he fought with the strong ones of the world, and would be adored as a hero. He would then be bound in marriage with Frine, who received her beauty back. But his story was set back. Montalvo chose his good-for-nothing family and let Frine die. He would then continue to regret betraying Frine and act the part of a person proud of being bad. I thought about it again and again. Why did Montalvo decide to betray Frine? Did he not want to fall to ruin? Did he not want to follow the narrative he had at the start? Because he was weak? Sure, that's true. That was part of it. But I was sure that was not all. Was it not Uedaru's influence? Two narratives met in a place and briefly fused. There are cases where the two completely unrelated protagonists became friends, and there are those where the protagonist of one narrative fell to become the enemy of the brighter shining one. I was sure Montalvo was one of those. When it was decided that Uedaru would appear on the stage, a change was introduced in Montalvo's narrative. The independent protagonist known as Montalvo would degrade into the first enemy in Uedaru's narrative, the gatekeeper. His fate was overridden. Montalvo was now struggling to rewrite his narrative again, but it seems like it would be futile. So at least, I'll have you defile Uedaru's narrative with your life. I then undid my transformation. He no longer knew how many times Uedaru had thrusted. Montalvo swept aside to stop the thrust. The weight disappeared from his hands. He couldn't feel the handle he was supposed to be holding. It couldn't have slipped away from his fingers. He wouldn't have made that mistake. Which means, the demon sword Gulseud had disappeared. Unbelievable things had been happening again and again recently, but surely he couldn't have imagined this much. He had no sword, which meant that he had no way to defend against Uedaru's. He was going to die. He did not understand the details at all, but that much was clear. Uedaru's sword, wrapped in a vortex of Toki. Death approached, slowly but surely. On the verge of death, Montalvo's world became slow. There was no rush. He couldn't run anyway, so panicking is meaningless. If he was going to die, he will accept death. That is all. Death was a possibility ever since he stepped out on the arena. No sense in fussing about it now. I've heard the stories, but the world really does become slow when you're going to die. Because time flowed ever so slowly, Montalvo decided to think a bit about what was going on. Why did his sword suddenly disappear? Did Uedaru use disarming magic? But in that case, the sacrament cage would have cancelled it. He didn't know how, but he was sure that somebody must have done something. Then it couldn't be anyone but Kai. Montalvo had already noticed that Kai had his own personal motive. He had a hunch that this was going to happen. He understood that he was probably going to be thrown away at some time. He knew all that. But he doesn't begrudge Kai. Kai gave life to the rotten Montalvo. Just like he promised that day, their bonds were forever. His gratitude was forever. Montalvo decided to look back on his life again. He lived an honest life for a while after he was born, but he gradually became clever and piled up evil deeds, but for a little while at the end, he came back to his former self. He was aware he led a deep life, but when he thought back on it, it was so fleeting. Almost like a dream. Within that dream, he had but one regret. Frine. He didn't lend his hand to her. They came to understand each other in the fight the other day, but the regret lingered. He wanted to show her lots of things while she lived. Only that. What's wrong, Montalvo? Why the long face? There was a voice in his ear. Frine's voice. In the form of her young self. It looks like she came to see how he would end. Montalvo honestly spoke out his regrets. I couldn't forgive myself for not choosing you. Oh, that. Well, I don't mind. I was also too impatient. I wanted to hurry and make you a prince. I wasn't thinking of your feelings. Even though it was your life. Dying as an old woman was my punishment. No, all that was, because I was weak. Damn it, you're too honest. Well, you did have some disappointing bits about you. I shouldn't be saying this about myself, but I'm really a top-grade beauty, you know. My body's, like, boing, slim, boing, you know. If you went on a journey with me you'd be all dreamy every night. Such a shame. Since when were you that kind of character? You shouldn't ask about character when they're dead, you know. Everything fades. You can have it easier too if you forget all about the past and become an idiot. It was my responsibility that I couldn't teach you that, too. No, I don't want to forget about my responsibility. Sheesh, there's no helping you, is there? Well, if you really regret it like you said Frine, looking amused. You could do it over. Do it over? Yes, that's right. Narratives repeat themselves. The details change a little, but they repeat again and again, if we ever cross paths again. Let's continue that story. Next time, there is, right. And just with that, he thought he was saved. He wouldn't go wrong this time. Whatever he will be, whatever meddling will happen, he will walk his own path next time. But you know, that Motoki guy, Lady Yuva's progeny are always the weird ones, but he's still a head above the flock. Even when he had feelings he makes clear judgments, he'd make a good assassin. He'd surely give Lady Quira a headache. That goddess gets upset real quick, even though that's the reason Lady Yuva always makes fun of her. But even so, said Frine, it hurts my chest that all's going according to Lady Yuva's trickery. Even though I'm low grade I'm still I can at least make little miracles. I'll play a little trick. So said Frine. Uedaro's fight against Montavo abruptly ended. Montavo's sword suddenly disappeared and Uedaro's thrust directly hit him. There's no way a body will be alright receiving a blow from a reincarnator. Bits and pieces flew all over the place. It was such a gruesome spectacle nobody could make a sound. Some cried. Some vomited. Somebody said this is not how it's supposed to be. The much anticipated fight shouldn't have been such a grotesque show. This is just a murder. Can someone who did this really be called a hero? In fact, the fight had been going in a weird way. Even when he lost his sword it conveniently returned to him, and his enemy's sword suddenly disappeared. It was a mystery and a conclusion with a bad aftertaste. With pale faces, everyone left the arena. The next day, the town of Kuro was in an uproar. A certain sentence had gone public. There were voices saying, the fight between Montavo and Uedaro was rigged. Uedaro vs Montavo was a fixed game, a fraud. That rumor was circulating all around Kura. The source of the rumors were flyers that were spread in several places in town and in the arena. The flyer contained these. Uedaro will madly launch magic right as the match starts. But magic doesn't work on Montavo. Uedaro will take out his sword and begin a sword fight. The fight will first proceed with the thrust using Uedaro at an advantage. But Montavo will make a comeback and then the real fight begins. At the end of the match, a miracle will happen and Uedaro will be patently strengthened. Montavo's sword will disappear. Montavo will die to Uedaro's thrust. The fight is arranged for this to happen. This plan is a trick contrived by the Jingate house. It was simply written, but it perfectly matches what happened in the match. The results written on the flyer all came true. The first ones to cause an uproar were those who had bet on Montavo. Shouldering heavy losses, they gathered at the Jingate and the Lord's homes. Hey, stop fucking with us. If this is all a trick then give us our money back. The next angry voices came from those who believed in Uedaro. That fraud? Murderer? Murderer. Finally, there were voices of grief from those who loved Montavo. They killed him over some lame scheme. Stop fucking with me, give back Montavo. All as planned, I suppose. I watched the street below from the inn's window. The town was in an uproar. The peace was broken. The flyers seemed to have been effective. This goes without saying, but those flyers were made by me. I simulated the battle beforehand and wrote them down. That was easy for me who knew them both. And I was able to control it to an extent. I had previously told Uedaro through Kirisha that magic doesn't work on Montavo. But even so, I couldn't see Uedaro challenging a sword fight right off the bat. He would first try using magic once. People don't stray from their winning patterns so easily. And it really came to pass. What happened afterwards, I could predict to a degree. About Uedaro causing a miracle, and about myself undoing my transformation and making Montavo's sword disappear. And about him dying. It's sad, I think. I closed my eyes, and Montavo appeared in my mind. If anyone were to ask, I'd say it's really sad. Because of things I didn't foresee, I had gotten emotionally attached with him. When I thought I was going to cry, I did. But not so much that it became a trauma. I knew it. I was still a reincarnator. My moral and emotional switches were broken to an extent. I guess I can't look down on Uedaro after all. I'm also warped enough. Well, whatever. It's convenient that way. What comes next is going to be easy. Condolences and apologies comes after everything's done. Now, next is, I hid the sacrament cage I asked Lou to collect under the desk and left the inn. Uncle, it's weird. Everyone's weird? Kirisha. Kirisha never wanted anything like that Notisu. Kirisha was hugging my old man self tight, quivering. The gruesome spectacle she witnessed at the arena seemed to have become quite the trauma. She'd come to be afraid just looking at a sword. In that case, Uedaro who used them would be a target of fear. Not someone she'd go on a journey with. Impossible. Why do they have to use it like that when they finally got power? It's weird. Everything is going crazy Disuyo. That's right. You're right little lady. I gently patted Kirisha's head. People who want to fight even though their situation doesn't warrant a fight, only a wretched death await them. Their bones broken, their flesh scattered, birds sipping on their blood. Eek! Uncle, stop saying scary things please Disuyo. Whoops, my bad there. Kirisha put more strength into her hug. I hugged her back. I looked up to the sky through the window. The weather was really good today. Not a single cloud in the sky. I wonder if he's somewhere beyond the sky. I'm getting emotional. Kirisha. Kirisha muttered. Kirisha doesn't want a rich life. Kirisha doesn't want money. Kirisha doesn't want maids. Kirisha doesn't want a blanket and a good bed Disuyo. Kirisha wants a steady, peaceful home. Is it impossible because Papa is a lord? Well, people with power have their troubles. People around them get troubled too. Papa wasn't always like that Disuyo. He used to sneak out to the red light district and when he couldn't find a cute girl he would get revenge by raising taxes. Kirisha loves that kind of Papa. Such a nuisance to people. When Mama found out he went there and was going to turn into a demon Papa went rapid fire on the Lord jokes. Kirisha never laughed so much ever. Papa was beaten up and cried though. I had many things to retort about that but those were happy memories for Kirisha so I kept quiet. But everything changed Disuyo, everything. Kirisha had a distant look. Once his second wife was gone Kirisha's father began to care for her again but nowadays, the town was becoming restless and he became tense again. I hate the sullen and people using type. Since she never felt stability from her parents, Kirisha began to excessively seek stability. People who were raised in instability will be obsessed with stability, which was why Kirisha sought the absolute existence that was the Reincarnator. Among Uedaro's harem members, Kirisha was, in a way, the most mature. She didn't love Uedaro. What she wanted was not Uedaro, but a pillar that doesn't break no matter what. Therefore by seeing Uedaro's unsightly appearance, she no longer liked him anymore. It's cold but that's how people are. My NT ring had a part in Uedaro's weakening, though. Ah, that's right. Kirisha seemed to remember something and jumped down from my lap, and opened the door to the backyard. There, on the ground, were several of the flowers I planted together with Kirisha. They still haven't bloomed, but they were budding here and there. Mr. Flowers? Wah? They're living healthy Disuyo. Uncle, thank you for taking care of them Disuyo. Kirisha's face brightened, seeing the flowers growing healthily. Kirisha diligently watered them and moved the less healthy ones to different places. It's alright, Mr. Flower. Kirisha will never throw you away. Kirisha is sure it's just the ground that's bad Disuyo. Looking at the sweating Kirisha digging the ground I said to her, little lady, about the thing we talked about just now, the world always changes like you say. Everything changes. But just one. There's one way to make a place that doesn't change. Really? Kirisha's hand stopped and she raised her face. Does uncle know the way? Yes, as a matter of fact I do. I told Kirisha the way. The way to make an unchanging place. The Lord of Kura, Grisha was deeply anxious and suspicious. He couldn't trust a single soul. His personality lacked stability. With just a few words from people and little things happening, his values would greatly change. What's important to him would be trash the next day, and yesterday's trash becomes tomorrow's treasure. Grisha probably didn't have what it takes to be lord. He clearly lacked the majesty to rule over a single town as a count. He would always abuse his power on people around him. Master had another idea again and said something. Behind his back, Grisha was ridiculed and alienated. But when his late wife was alive, he did his job as a lord properly. Her always cheerfully smiling face brought peace to his deeply anxious heart, putting him at ease. When he knew his wife was there, he was able to stand firm, doing government work by the day, and spending the nights with his wife and Kirisha telling jokes. Because he had his wife, Grisha could in turn become a pillar for his wife, daughter, and town. But his wife had succumbed to illness and passed away. The pillar that gave him strength was gone. And Grisha no longer had the strength of heart. After his wife died, he almost never talked to his daughter Kirisha. Not that he didn't love her, but he didn't have the strength of heart to support her. Grisha's type could not care for other people unless their hearts and lives were fulfilled. Frequent fits of anxiety. Deep isolation. Grisha, looking for some support, married again. His second wife was even more of a support than his first. Grisha entrusted everything his wife, who had the eye to see through everything. He completely leaned against the pillar that was his second wife, and was dominated by her. Grisha knew well inside his heart that he was being manipulated by his wife. But he could no longer let go of his wife now, and refused to look at himself. Grisha's heart was focused on his wife and their two daughters. He began to care less and less about his first wife's daughter Kirisha, even though she was his irreplaceable treasure just a while before. To Kirisha, born to such an unstable man, the mansion had turned into an unreliable place. Her own footing would shake based on her father's whims. She wanted somewhere firm. She wanted stability. Then, she heard about Uedaro. Invincible, victor of many battles. Always smiling no matter what trouble he comes across. A great hero, gaining victories by having free reign of the goddess magic. A hero that will definitely not lose. He was what she had been looking for. Therefore she went out and came to him. Uedaro was like the rumors say, a bright and gentle young man. He did not show his anxiety to people, not even the night before a campaign. Always smiling and patting her head no matter the situation. He was stable. She could be at peace next to him. She thought. I wanted to go on a journey with him and seek out my utopia. But at that time, talks were brought up about Kirisha's engagement with the third son of the Jing-8s. Kirisha didn't have the right to object so she gave up. She thought she had no choice but to be this Montavo person's wife. But Uedaro came along at that time and stopped the engagement. He was kind. He's definitely the person who would give her peace. Uedaro, who would always come to help any time. But Uedaro made an unexpected proposal. Fight with me with Kirisha at stake? If I won, Kirisha will go on a journey with me. Why did he say something like that? Kirisha doubted. There's no need to do that, there's no reason to fight. The only reason would be if he wanted a duel. If it became a duel, then Kirisha's surroundings will become turbulent. She will be put on a show. Kirisha was sad. Why does even Uedaro continue to do things that would take away her peace? Why wouldn't they listen to other people's circumstances and positions? If Uedaro is a person with power, then he should have other ways to do it. Kirisha tried to protest to Uedaro in a roundabout way, but he didn't notice her feelings at all. He never had a doubt that Kirisha was thankful to him. Right then, she realized. Could it be, Uedaro was not stable, but merely finished? Could it be, only Uedaro exists in Uedaro's world, and that he only thought about making himself look good? Until the day the duel opens, Kirisha spent her days suspecting Uedaro. Maybe, she wouldn't be able to get her peace if she went with Uedaro. Kirisha buried her face in the back of her tamed beasts, deep in thought. That time, Kirisha met with the uncle. A calm, consistently polite person. He was about the same age as her father. He seemed to be lonely and came to the forest every day to deliberately meet with Kirisha. Kirisha had a favorable impression of the uncle. She probably saw the image of the ideal father in him. Uncle always listens to what Kirisha says, and made precise retorts. And even though Uncle didn't look all that strong, he used his body to shield her from the rampaging black wolf. The trustworthy person she had always been looking for. After that, Uncle's home became Kirisha's playhouse. Kirisha played with Lou and Ruby at Uncle's house, and planted flowers in his backyard. An unchanging, peaceful daily life. She was in a state of bliss. It would be great if days like this could just go on. But life continued to change. One day, before Uedaro and Montavo's fight took place, Kirisha's father had a quarrel with his wife Irene and chased her out of the house. Kirisha didn't know the details, but it seemed her father believed Irene had committed adultery. Kirisha's father's condition became bad afterwards, and he confined himself in his room. Being weakened, he called Kirisha and they talked like they did in the old days. Remembering the time when her mother was alive, Kirisha felt joy. But even this will change anyway. Kirisha took the long view. She no longer believed in anything everlasting. And just as she thought, her father changed again. After Uedaro and Montavo's fight concluded, rumors circulated in town that the fight was a scam. As one of the ringleaders, the Lord was blamed by the people. Faced with that kind of dilemma, there's no way he could have stayed calm. Kirisha's father became tense. His unease was contagious. He no longer seemed to care about Kirisha again. Kirisha didn't want to stay in that house, but she no longer felt like going on a journey with Uedaro, either. Just as she thought, Uedaro only wanted to stand out. During the duel, he lost his cool only from a slight wound by Montavo, and finally he killed him without mercy. Montavo's tragic corpse that might be the end Uedaro was walking towards. She can't follow. Kirisha realized. Just what did she love about that flimsy boy? She thought she wanted to remember, but the memory was no longer there. When she fell in love with Uedaro, she might just have lost her mind. Then she could only think that some strange power was at play. There was no place without change. Nowhere. Kirisha gave up. However, the uncle taught Kirisha the absolute way to make a place that doesn't change. The Lord's estate was busy that day. Influential people came over every day asking for an explanation about Uedaro and Montavo's fight. Kirisha was looking for something all over that residence. They're supposed to be hiding somewhere. Then, she found those two in a tool shed. Yuyu, Lala, there you are? Big sis has been looking for you, Disuyo. Kirisha was looking for Yuyu and Lala, her twin sisters born from her father's second wife Irene. Irene was chased out of the mansion after the adultery case, but she couldn't take her two daughters with her. The twins left behind spent their days like Kirisha did before, with no one to care for them. They were free from want, but there was nobody there to cherish them. Kirisha and the twins' positions were reversed. For Kirisha, this was the chance to pay back the grudge she had piled up. However, come along, let's have some snacks with big sis. We're baking some scones, Disuyo. With a gentle smile and voice, Kirisha invited the twins for tea. The twins were cautious, but they took Kirisha's hand. The three of them headed towards the dining table. There were snacks prepared on the table, but only for one person. Kirisha glared at the maid by the table. Where's Yuyu and Lala's portion? Kirisha thought Kirisha ordered for 3 snacks. But, milady, the maid awkwardly averted her eyes. The Lord had been keeping Yuyu and Lala at an abnormal distance lately. He suspected that they might not have been his children. Therefore, the house help also completely changed their attitudes toward them. They might displease the Lord if they treated the twins with care. Kirisha did not want to allow that sort of thing. Prepare snacks for these two right away. But just do it. Kirisha will talk to Papa. Kirisha called her twin sisters and hugged them close. Kirisha won't forgive you if you bully these girls. Full of will in her eyes, Kirisha glared at the maids, sharp, declaring her intent to protect the girls even if it meant her life. You, understood. I will prepare them right away. The maid lost the contest of will and hurried for the kitchen. Kirisha let out a huff, and smiled again at the twins in her arms. Don't mind Papa or anyone else. No matter what anyone else says, you're definitely Papa's girls. You're Kirisha's sisters, Disuyo. She ran her fingers through the twins' hair. Kirisha, I will protect the both of you. As she smiled, Kirisha recalled what the uncle said the other day. No matter how hard you look, you won't find anyone who would give you a steady place. People are naturally unsteady things. Even if you found somebody that will give you peace, that person might someday change. But there is just one way that you can have an unchanging place for yourself. You yourself should become an absolutely unchanging place for others. Decide who you want to protect, and vow to be the pillar of support for them. It's not an easy thing. Because people change easily, it's really hard to not change and continue to protect others. They won't be so thankful of you, either. But, at the end of it lies true unchangingness. You won't find stability anywhere other than at the end of that road. You don't look for it, you make it yourself. Kirisha listened to his words and thought. She should aim to make herself a stable place for her twin little sisters. Those who were weaker than herself. The girls who were driven to isolation like Kirisha once was. If she abandoned the girls, she could never face her mother in heaven. Thus one of the twins timidly opened her mouth. Oni-chan. Yes, Oni-chan Disuyo, I'll be your big sister forever and ever and ever. Not to look for a pillar but become the pillar of support herself. The childhood days of looking for people to rely on were over. This was Kirisha's growth to adulthood. I will be the pillar for the two of you. TN, trigger warning, doesn't contain loli. You, those irritating brats Disuyo. I was only being gentle with them at the beginning. They've been making light of me every other sentence lately Disuyo. While saying that, Kirisha pounded my bed again and again. Unable to continue her twin sister's education by ordinary means, she went to Gaye in indignation. She intended to act scary, but since she was cute to begin with, it lacked impact. So lovely. Doesn't being selfish prove that they trust you? The twins seem to like you very much, little lady. Transformed into the old soldier, I gently pat the raging small animal in the head. You. If they liked me then they should care about me a little more, Noticeio. Those two are like monsters. I want to have them tamed one day, Noticeio. Kirisha sat on the bedside, and now she kicked about with her feet. She's been coming here a lot to complain, but Kirisha's face looked lively. She must have cared for her sisters so much after all. Recently, Kirisha had even taken over half of her useless father's jobs. She's a natural at supporting people, I'm sure of it. Smiling, I gazed at Kirisha. Kirisha had visibly grown a lot. Mentally and also physically. In just a few days, Kirisha was markedly taller. Her body lengthened, and she had more meat on her. She had given off a childlike impression up until now, but now she looked appropriate for her age. By losing faith in Uedaro and leaving his harem, she was set free from being a character. The checks restraining Kirisha's growth had been undone. This girl was at an age where she would normally get married after all. Just a tad bit younger than Ruby. She wasn't really a loli. Even though she wasn't that young, she stayed young for the convenience of the world's narrative, and nobody thought it strange, such an unusual scene. That was why I had always told myself, Kirisha was a woman. That was so I don't fall for it myself. Well, at any rate, now that Kirisha had grown and was no longer a loli, I could do her. But I couldn't get into the mood. Not in this form. Maybe it was a mistake to turn into an old man. I might have to do that after all. Little lady, can you close your eyes for a little bit? Yes, Disuyo. Kirisha stared at me, puzzled, but she still closed her eyes like she was told. Immediately I gave Kirisha's lips a kiss, and at the same moment, I transformed into a blonde-haired young boy. Surprised by the feeling in her lips, Kirisha opened her eyes, and became even more surprised. Who might you be? Don't say who. I'm the guy you've been calling uncle. This is what I actually look like. My body changed because of a curse, and I needed a maiden's kiss to turn back. You saved me there. I took Kirisha's hand, brought my face close to hers, and made an extraordinarily smug smile. Sorry for kissing you without asking. I'll protect you forever in exchange. A Nubekawa unmasked by the kiss of a princess, an old man transformed into a pretty boy. A typical happy end. A staple of stories. So sudden. This is happening too fast. Kirisha darted her eyes around with a face all red, and finally stopped fidgeting. Blood rushed to her head and she stared blankly at me. Kirisha, who was trapped in a story just the other day, had a story-like happy end thrown her way, and the result was astounding. Are you really uncle? No, I guess it's Unii-san now. What should I do? Please don't stare at me like that. Kirisha was in a daze. I had been an old man, but now I was a prince. The gap drove her crazy. I held Kirisha's chin and smugly pulled her to me, giving her another kiss. Her thin lips and mine were pressed together for some amount of time. And for the same amount of time, our lips parted. Kirisha turned doe-eyed. She melted. Her breathing became quick. Her small hands gripped the cuff of my shirt. More, she seems to be saying. I gave her another kiss like she wanted. This time our tongues intertwined. I kissed her not just on the lips, cheeks, eyelids, brows, ears. I could go all the way with this, but well, see you tomorrow then. I said that and nonchalantly separated myself from Kirisha. No. Because of the sudden end, Kirisha had an unsatisfied look on her face. She must be frustrated. She swelled her cheeks. She's fun to tease. Let's play with her a little more. It took so much work this time. It would be a waste to just make her mine right away. From the next day onwards, Kirisha started making frequent visits to the house. Today, do that again. Alright. Come. Transformed as a pretty boy, I held Kirisha in my arms. I held her chin and gave her a kiss as usual. Kirisha instantly melted with a few AAA. Nowadays, Kirisha had the job of taking care of the twins and assisting her father. She felt accomplished having such a responsibility, but at the same time, it stressed her heavily as well, which was why she came to me to relieve the stress. Kirisha came here wanting sweet dreams, wanting to be a princess. I slid Kirisha's sundress down until it almost uncovered her. A light pink circle peeked out just a little bit. Kirisha's meager valley sweating, heaving up and down. Take me, now, Kirisha said with her eyes. However, I'll stop after all. I separated myself from her. Again? Why are you so mean? Well, things like this depend on mood, you see. You, teasing Kirisha, teasing me like this, you've only gotten meaner when you got younger. Idiot. Kirisha cried and ran away. The next day, Kirisha invited me to the forest, the place where I met her for the first time. I'm going to have you take me for real today. I won't allow you to tease a maiden any more than this. Kirisha surrounded me with her tamed beasts, glaring at me. It seems she had gotten quite fed up with being left hanging and toyed with several days in a row. So that's what this is about. So dangerous. You want it that much? Such a lewd girl. I tried cracking a joke but Kirisha didn't reply but only glared at me. This is bad, looks like I teased her too far. Can't be helped, come. I roughly grabbed Kirisha's arm and pressed her back against a tree. Not a cave dawn, but a trunk dawn, cutting Kirisha's way out. We gazed at each other up close. Ani-san. Immediately, Kirisha melted. Like cheese. Looks like she liked the trunk dawn. It seems like she liked being treated roughly better than like a proper princess. A switch, huh. I slid Kirisha's dress down and threw it away. Only underwear covered Kirisha now. A small-sized bra and string panties. Even as she looked away in embarrassment, Kirisha sent me a sharp glare. If you leave me hanging again I'll never forgive you, she was saying. No need to worry, I'm also at the limits of my patience. I've never been so high-strung like I am now. I took off Kirisha's top and bottom underwear in one stroke. Oh, Kirisha, stark naked still developing twin hills, and pale pink flower buds. And then between slender legs, a still unsoiled place, a soon soiled place. Ani-san, I'm all ready. Yay, me too. I flung away my own clothes and went naked. Yuck. Kirisha covered her eyes in embarrassment, but she was looking at my thing from between her fingers. She'd be curious at her age. Come. A naked me carried a naked Kirisha in a princess carry. I relished in the sight of Kirisha in my arms once more. A stark naked beauty of noble lineage. Her small chest, thighs, and her cute navel, they're all mine now. I'm going to stain her now, deep into her womb. I laid Kirisha down next to the black wolf. Let's have your friend watch over you becoming an adult. Then I hung over Kirisha's glassworks-like body and Kirisha and I did it again and again along the way. The sun went down. This is bad. We were too into it, Kirisha. Time to go home. However, Kirisha, who was laying down on the shrubs, didn't reply. She slovenly drooled, half unconscious. Looks like she was really entranced. I hurriedly put clothes on Kirisha and sat her up then. Kirisha. He appeared in the forest clearing. Uedaro. The reincarnator boy looked obviously haggard, even at a glance. Being suspected of trickery and being called a murderer by people, his ordinarily weak mind completely crumbled. Uedaro opened his mouth with a blank look. Kirisha, hey, who's that man? Why? Even though I got beaten up this much for you, why are you with another man? Hey. His voice finally woke Kirisha up. She turned her eyes towards Uedaro and eek. She paled. Don't come any closer, murderer. Please, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I'm going to be happy with him, so don't get in our way, please. Why? I worked really hard. You worked really hard to try and make yourself look good, right? Hearing Kirisha, Uedaro stopped. I used that chance to take Kirisha and escape. Uedaro was probably as good as finished now. All that's left is the cleanup. Interlude, the goddess loves diversity. Converted the priestess of Quira Miria to Yuva, then did it in the bathroom. Rania included. Had a threesome. No plans to go steady with either. Plan to be sex friends. Current number of sex friends is 4. I finished writing down my recent exploits and nodded. Right. What the hell's right? Your whole existence is completely wrong, said Rania loathsomely as she read the exploits I wrote. There were deep bags under Rania's eyes, and she was shivering and clattering from the waist down. Rania, you look really tired, don't you? This is your fault for wringing out my stamina until morning. I said no more, and you still did it again and again. And why are you still full of energy anyway? You a monster? Well, I knew you were a sex fiend, but are you physically a fiend as well? Well, I regularly exercise after all. With Ruby and them. But you have quite the stamina yourself, don't you, Rania? I shake shakers all night long. I have stamina. Priestess don't normally shake shakers, and that doesn't build stamina, I said while gulping down Rania's special cocktail. Meanwhile, Miria was still sleeping soundly in bed even now when it's past lunchtime. Seems like she used up all her stamina. Miria's indecent act last night, it was the best. Anyway, Rania, hurry and send my exploits to Goddess Yuva, please. Sure. Well, but even if it's Lady Yuva, I don't think she would approve. She totally approved. The moment Rania lit the paper, many golden particles sprung out. The gold dust-like particles wrapped my body and... Where am I? When I came to, I was in an unfamiliar room. The room had no sense of unity. The walls were ethnic, the floor was tatami, and the ceiling had a chandelier. Impressionist paintings, delicate bronze statues, and some avant-garde art. What is this place? It's got all sorts in it. My room. A voice reached me from behind. I looked back. What I saw there was a little girl in goth-loli costume. The diamond-shaped tattoos beneath her eyes made quite an impression. Your parents will cry, you know. Good evening, my cute Motoki-kun. You look like you're having fun in the world you reincarnated into, aren't you? By the way, Motoki, you're perceptive, but do you know who I am? Yeah, of course. I nodded. My old neighbor Yakin, right. I'm not? Who the hell's that? I'm the goddess? The one who's been watching over you, Yuva. No, well, I knew that. Just trying to make a joke. So, what does the goddess want with me? And make it short. You. I never imagined I'd be teased by my own progeny. You don't look too happy, do you? You threw me in the alternate world without so much as a tutorial, and now you appear all of a sudden. The other reincarnators received proper explanations from their goddesses before they reincarnated, and yet only I was suddenly thrown into this world. Only me. Well, I'm sorry about that. The day your soul came to heaven, I was feeling a bit hungover, so I didn't want to show my face. It was embarrassing, you see? And isn't it all right since everything turned out okay? Ah, so you want a tutorial now? Too late. The story had progressed quite far already. Now, Motoki, don't be so mad. Why don't we have a little talk? Goddess Yuva ignored my anger and started talking. Say, Motoki, diversity is such a nice word, isn't it? It's our fun because there's all kinds of stuff. Objects and cultures and people, because there are all kinds of them, they make a fascinating story. Well, I agree with you on that point. Diversity, I love that word. I know, right? Male and female, petite and hulking, humans and demi-humans and phantoms, it's fun because it's a hodgepodge. But you know, continued the goddess, the reincarnators carrying cheat skills are hurting the diversity I so love. I want them to stop killing the demi-humans. The administrative type reincarnators as well. Stop trying to make this world into Earth. Seriously. They do, don't they? This goddess's thoughts scarily resemble my own. I don't want to admit it though. So with that in mind, I want you, Motoki, to weaken the reincarnators who harm the world's diversity from now on. Work hard, my balancer. I'm rooting for you. She gripped my hand hard and smiled really close to my face. Looking at that smile, I became fired up despite myself. By the way, Motoki, there's one thing I want you to do when you're back on the surface. Back on the surface, I began working on the thing Goddess Yuva asked of me. I headed for the Quira church Miria had been protecting until yesterday. Since Miria ran away, it was now completely deserted. I hid in a corner of the chapel, waiting for people to come. And after waiting about 1 hour, they're here. I heard footsteps heading my way. The town's Quira followers are coming to offer their prayers. I used mirror and transformed into the goddess Yuva. Of course, transforming into a goddess takes a lot out of me, but I could somewhat bear it. Eep. The two ladies who came gulped seeing the goddess Yuva descend into the world. I spoke. My name is Yuva. My sister Quira had already deserted this place. From today onwards this place belongs to me. The goddess Yuva descended. The town was in an uproar. Then, the Yuva church gained power. On the other hand, the Quira church was dejected. Their goddess had left the town. Because of this, the influence of goddess Quira on Kura became definitely weaker. That, in other words, meant the weakening of Uadaro. Interlude, this and that of the harem members 1. Mufufufufo, an emerald ring proof of the illegal wife. The high orc girl Kalu was rolling about on her bed in the inn, gazing at the ring she just received. It was meant to be a middle finger ring, but she wore it on her left ring finger. It was slightly the wrong size, but she somehow managed by forcing it in. Lu had always somehow managed to do things by fighting spirit. But well, that philandering dick can be praiseworthy sometimes, I guess. Glad I didn't kill him. Lu was somewhat off personality-wise, but she was still a noble's daughter. She had a stronger sense of virtue than the average folk. She was attached to Motoki, whom she gave her virginity to. That Motoki had recently made more and more sex friends. There was no way she was okay. However, this time he was even trying to sink his fangs into this lowly Kirisha something brat. Well, but, as the holder of a ring it's very clear that I'm the legal wife, so, let's forgive him for adding a lowly girl. A legal wife must be tolerant. Scolding him over something so minor is unbecoming. No, then, why don't we take a nap? Motoki's still not back yet. Motoki was rather busy nowadays, going to the lowly's place or to Montavo's to train him. Neglecting his legal wife, is he? I'll give him a piece of my mind later. Lu sulked to bed and closed her eyes, but then suddenly opened them. She suddenly noticed something. Motoki didn't give the other girls a ring, did he? He couldn't. He wouldn't do that, would he? The only one to receive a ring should only be herself, the legal wife. That's how it's supposed to be. She wanted to believe in Motoki, but since he's complete garbage he just might. Lu ran out of the inn. The direction Lu went in was the grimoire store. The daughter there was Motoki's sex friend. His second. Now then. Lu opened the door and entered pretending to be a customer. Welcome. The big-breasted girl Ruby was minding the store. She didn't know about Lu, so she didn't show any odd responses. Ruby was resting her huge rack on the counter and writing something on a piece of paper. Probably a new novel. Want read, thought Lu. Lu was a fan of Ruby's novels. But she had to leave that aside and check to see if she had any rings. Lu looked at Ruby's hands. Yay. Ruby made a small guts pose. Ruby wasn't wearing a ring, which means she won against Ruby. Since she won, she should have quickly left the store, but she was really proud. Ruby had no ring and she had won. The superiority complex was welling up inside her. She wanted to brag, she wanted to provoke Ruby. She couldn't fight that desire. Lu flashed her left hand at Ruby and said, "Wah, this ring Motoki bought me is heavy, see. It's probably 100 kilos, see my fingers gonna break, see. This is troubling, see. Love is heavy, see. Motoki? Did you say Motoki?" The pen dropped from Ruby's hand. I knew she was not only doing it with Miria-chan, but you did lewd things with Motoki too, didn't you? Oh, so you did it with Motoki too? Wheel, what a coincidence. It's a wonder, isn't it? Two women, both did it with Motoki, meeting each other. By the way, I was the one who took Motoki's virginity. But I'm not saying that really matters though, even though I got the ring. You got a ring, my breasts have 30 of Motoki's kiss marks? Yours don't look like they have the space for that. TN, burn. As she said that, Ruby unbuttoned her shirt and showed her chest. There were countless marks there like signature stamps. Motoki likes breasts, so he won't be satisfied with those. TN, burn. NGH. But still, you shouldn't think that this is a matter of breasts. Yes, I don't have breasts. I concede that. But you know, look, I've got the ring. A ring, even I got accessories from him before. Oh, accessories? Well. But you know, compared to a ring, accessories are like small fry enemies, you know, like slimes? Anyway, this is getting dull. Shouldn't we settle this already? I know, right, we can't settle this with a quarrel. Whoosh. Ruby's small frame filled with magic power. Lu took a slight distance from Ruby and thought her tactics through. It's fine, no problem. Ruby's supposed to need a magic circle to launch attack magic. I'm not going to give her that chance. I can win if I close the distance right away. Haha, a dunce of a magic user can't possibly win against the great thief Lu Chanwei. Flames erupted from Ruby's palm. Elemental purification without a magic circle. Due to her envy against Lu, Ruby managed to grow within these few seconds. The flames become numerous fireballs and approached Lu. Please wait, let's talk this through. Lu burned. TN, burn. I'm back. What happened to you? You look burnt. Welcome back, Motoki? No, well, actually I forgot my sunblock today and took damage to my skin. I'm ashamed of a maiden. No, they're not sunburns, but more like physical burns, aren't they? I don't think the sun's that bad. How did you get so burned? I forgot to mention this, but I burn up once every 2 weeks. Alright. Don't spontaneously combust too much, K. I did want you to let it pass, but you letting it pass randomly like that hurt quite a bit, doesn't it? Interlude, this and that of the harem members too. The next day, Lu came to the grimoire store again. Revenge against Ruby was not her goal. Lu-chan is here. TSIL plate. Lu, welcome. You came to read my novel again. Oh ho, you wrote that much in a single night? Let me see, I can read it right? I can give red marks more precisely than that incompetent editor Motoki after all. After the fight yesterday, Lu and Ruby calmly worked things out between them. Bit by bit, they talked about themselves. When Lu said she was a fan of Ruby, the latter was overjoyed. She brought out the huge amount of novels she already wrote but Motoki won't read. They had a pleasant chat while reading novels in the store. Somewhere along the way, they had come to a ceasefire agreement. To share that garbage of a man for the time being. There are problems in the world that you can't solve by talking. But there are those that you can. Today, the two chatted until the sky got dark. It's this time already? Well then, we should go there already. Yeah, we should. Ruby locked up the grimoire store and went out with Lu. The two of them went to the Yuva church. Motoki's third sex friend Miria was here. Lu and Ruby came to find out how far Motoki has gone with Miria. Now then, let's raid. Yep. The place looked like a bar from the outside. They opened the door. Welcome my. If it isn't Lu and Ruby. Miria greeted the two of them. When Miria was a member of the Quira church, Motoki asked Lu and Ruby to go there, so Miria already knew the two. In bartender getup, Miria hugged Lu and Ruby both. This is wonderful, you came to see me, aren't you? Come now, let's get inside. Across the counter, Miria, Lu, and Ruby began chatting idly. By the way Miria. Ruby nonchalantly broached the subject. How are you, with your boyfriend lately? Have you been doing anything? Boyfriend? You mean little lamb? Of course we're in love mode? My, are you curious? It's a really lewd story, you know? Why, aren't you too precocious? So then, I'll make a special case and tell you. Miria began talking about little lamb with a face full of joy. About how he would suckle her breasts each time, about how she was disappointed that milk didn't come out, about how Miria did all sorts of things to little lamb in exchange. And then, just the other day, when Rania and I fell limp in the bathroom, he hugged us both and did the two of us together. Tisk. Tisk. Lu and Ruby popped veins on their foreheads. Miria's boyfriend the little lamb was their boyfriend as well. But only Miria didn't know that. Incidentally, Miria still hadn't found out about Motoki's true self and his power. If she did, she might just kill him. Lu and Ruby were at first irritated by the talk about Miria's sex life, but looking at Miria's joyful face, their anger gradually settled. When they looked at her face, the hate simply just wouldn't come out. While listening to Miria talk, the two stealthily looked at each other and smiled. It can't be helped. Let's leave it like this. They were very annoyed that Motoki was doing other girls than themselves, but they knew what they were going into when they chose him. Then right that moment, Oni-san, I'm Higa. The door to the Yuva church opened and a boy the little lamb entered. In other words, Motoki. Well, little lamb, we were just talking about you. Miria hugged little lamb close. About me, Oni-san, what about me did you talk about? My, isn't it obvious? We were talking about how skillful you are and how you're always making me feel good. I want the two of them to know that. Little lamb, aka Motoki, turned pale and looked at Ruby and Lu. He didn't consider that these two might be here. Motoki's face looked confused, which was rare for him. But both Lu and Ruby did not get angry, not this late in the game. Say, you two. Miria looked at Lu and Ruby's faces. While we're talking about little lamb, I've been getting itchy, so I don't think I can hold it back. So, if you don't mind, how about you two? It feels really good, you know, little lambs. When I feel good together with another girl I feel calm. Feeling good is okay, it's normal, something like that. So, if you don't mind we can try doing it together. Ruby and Lu looked at each other. Together, that means, she was inviting Motoki and all the girls here to do a foursome together? Of course, they should have refused, but until now, Miria had been talking about her sex life with the little lamb and the two of them had started feeling itchy. Since they had both done it normally with Motoki before, they could vividly imagine how Miria was doing it. Well, I don't really mind. Me too. Oh, I'm so glad. I'll call Rania down, then, she's having a nap right now. It'll be fun doing it with the five of us. Let's do it here. After locking the doors, Miria went to the inner rooms to call Rania. In the church part of the establishment, Ruby, Lu, and Motoki in the form of a child were left behind. I've been thinking how you've been coming home late these days, so you've been suckling on Miria's breasts all this time. Motoki, you cheater. No, well, this is a coincidence, Motoki was flustered. Well, it's fine, but only this time, okay, just because I want to do it too. Only this time. I really only want it just the two of us when we do lewd things, okay. Lu and Ruby sighed and took off their clothes. Lu dropped her clothes with a rustling sound, exposing her well-featured slender nakedness. She covered her chest and genitals with her hands. Her face was dyed red. Ruby's was caught in her huge breasts. She had difficulty taking them off. When she took off her clothes and her underwear, her huge breasts went jiggle. Once she was naked, Ruby frantically tried to hide her giant breasts. But her breasts were too big, her arms sunk into it instead. Then, Miria and Rania arrived. What's going on? Why are you? Rania, who suddenly appeared, looked at the two naked girls and was shocked. Now, Rania too. Oi. Miria tore off Rania's clothes. Her swarthy brown skin was exposed, then her underwear came off. Her breasts were conversely lightly colored. I have to strip, too. Thus Miria, who was the last to take her clothes off, finally did so. Next to Rania, Miria's white skin became more prominent. The charm of dark brown and white. Mew. The naked Lu looked sullen and linked arms with the likewise naked Ruby. With the adult combo in front of her eyes, she must have thought to make a small and big combo. Miria, having tied her hair up, became the starting signal. The four naked ladies surrounded Motoki. Then they piled on top of each other like mud. Snip the actual work. Even as I drowned in the women that I had captured until now, in my head I was calmly understanding what was going on. I don't get what had happened, but my women seemed to be getting along with each other. That would be necessary for Kirisha's capture. Lu had probably done something. This I could call a fine play. Nonetheless, this is great, isn't it? Enjoying a wide variety of naked bodies all at the same time was tremendously good. The downside was that it was tiring, but who cares about that? The bodies and sweat of the participant and various other things melted all over me. However, I thought, there really needs to be a loli. I have to hurry and get Kirisha to join quickly. Interlude, even the small-time scoundrel gets an episode 1. That night, Montavo was terribly drunk. Kai had declared a break in the training tonight, so he drank with his friends until late. I'm tottering. I suppose that was too much drinking for my noble and heavy drinker self. He was unsteady on his feet. Montavo was tottering and staggering. He didn't have a constitution that takes to alcohol well to begin with. He had many failures due to alcohol many times now, but still, he had to drink. In order to run away from that voice in his ears. Then, right that moment. Help? Anyone? Help. It came from somewhere, a voice asking for help. Another hallucination again? It has nothing to do with my noble and cold-hearted self. He doesn't want anything to do with saving commoners, however. The image of the townspeople floated into his mind. The faces of the people rooting for Montavo. What the hell's wrong with me, damn it? Montavo stopped walking and shouted. Where are you? The one asking for help from my noble and godly helpful self. This way, please, help. The voice came from an alley. There was a young girl there. The young girl's body, illuminated by the moonlight, was covered in blood. If you're a lucky commoner, being found by my noble and angelic self, come now, stand. Montavo reached out to give the girl a helping hand, but then, Bakan, why? The voice rang inside his ears. The voice from that day. That's right, he had no business helping people now. He was a person who lives a life of evil. That was what he decided that day. Montavo turned around. He abandoned the fallen girl and ran away from there. Out of breath, he ran through the streets. Oi, Montavo. He was pulled by a hand from behind and was forced to a stop. When he turned around, there was his master Kai. Kai, where did you come out from? Never mind that. Montavo, why didn't you save that girl? You saw. Yes, I saw. Don't worry about her for now. She's something of an illusion I was showing you. Say Montavo, why do you always stop the moment you're about to save someone? Montavo couldn't answer. He didn't have to answer, even to his master. So you're not going to answer. Well, it didn't look like it's something easy to say here. Kai threw something at Montavo. What's this all of a sudden? Montavo caught it in a fluster. The thing in his hands. My sacrament cage. It was the rare magic item Kai took from him before. I'm giving it back, the sacrament cage. So in return, I want you to tell me about yourself, Montavo Jingate. What kind of person are you? Kai asked with a serious look. Why do you ask that now of all times? With this back, my noble and free self has no reason to listen to you anymore. The reason Montavo obeyed Kai was to get the sacrament cage back. If he had gotten it back, the forced master and student relationship was no more. Was supposed to be no more. All right. Then we're now equals. With that in mind, I want to ask you this, Montavo, what are you running from? The reason you studied in the continent was because you're running away from something, am I wrong? Why do you want to know so much about me? Beats me. Well, if pressed to answer, I'd say because the more I know the more I can make a good story, I suppose. Kai's eyes were clear, so Montavo thought. Really? Thus, Montavo decided to talk. The story of himself until he transformed into a scoundrel. Montavo was the third son of the Kuran noble family Jingate. Despite being nobles, the Jingates had been merchants until 3 generations ago. Their family tradition was far from elegant. They were so hectic that one can say they'd die if someone stopped. The Jingates do not possess the notion of steadiness. They continued climbing in all fields, aiming for a higher place. They never stopped moving. The source of the overflowing vitality was a complex. Even though we're nobles, we're upstarts. When an upstart fails, everything ends. Our family shall never ever fail. Don't fail, don't ever fail. Those were the words of Montavo's father. You don't want to be made light of, do you? Make up for our lack of history and our low status with results. His father raised his children with zeal. He wanted his children to excel in various fields. Knowledge, trade, and the martial arts. His father was particularly zealous in teaching the art of the sword. He wanted to give raise to a knight unparalleled under the sky from his family. The coach the father hired taught the children the undefeatable art of the sword. An ever-changing form, always reaching for the enemy's weak spot. Surprises, taunts, smidgens of foul play. Devoting one's whole mind and body to grasping the victory at hand at any means. That kind of sword. The children won and won at martial arts tournaments. Even if ridiculed as unrefined, if they won they joined the royal army. All the upstart family needs were victories. That is the way of the Jingate family. The whole family greedily aimed for victory. Only one, the third son Montavo, was the exception. Montavo was a shiftless young boy, too shiftless to be a Jingate. He had no interest in fame or victory. The young Montavo purely pursued the sword. The optimal forms, footwork with little loss, strong stances he constantly explored. Without fussing about victor, Montavo immersed his own limbs in the forms of his predecessors. His win rate was low. He didn't want to sacrifice his form just to win a sham battle. If he could eventually reach the strongest with that, then it's fine. That was Montavo's way of thinking. His parents and siblings who adhered to the family ways blamed him. What are you doing? Win, win, win? Attack their weak point. But Montavo was obstinate. Winning with tricks is meaningless. You're so fixated on the immediate victory, you won't become the strongest. His will was as hard as iron, welling up in him like a spring. That time, Montavo was still an honest young man. Interlude, even the small-time scoundrel gets an episode 2. This was when Montavo Jingate was a pure and fastidious young boy. The pressure against his lack of tenacity for results was strong. You're a disgrace, his parents and siblings would severely scold him. However, Montavo was not alone. He had a reassuring ally, the head maid of the Jingates, Frine. An old maid whose wrinkles on her face looked like cracks. Bakon's way of thinking is wonderful. That's right, it's better in the beginning to know the right form and have the right heart rather than being a stickler for results. She won her fame as a female swordsman when she was young, and she left to be a sword master for Montavo. Under Frine's strict guidance, Montavo steadily exhibited his sword talents. Half of the training Frine assigned him were practice swings. She made Montavo earnestly swing the sword from morning to evening. Montavo silently performed the plain, harsh training. The way the sword moves shows the user's personality. That was Frine's favorite saying. A sword wielded by a person with a warped heart will swing in a warped path. That may be true, thought Montavo. The way his father and brothers' swords moved was warped, they were dull. The way Bakon's sword moves is wonderful indeed. Frine was strict, but time to time she would praise Montavo. I have never seen a sword move so straight and true. It will take time, but Bakon will surely become the strongest swordsman one day. Seeing Frine's proud eyes being seen by such eyes made him happy to no end. As he continued swinging his sword, the path left an image in his eyes. Montavo's sword flashes were comfortably straight. This is the path I will walk. Montavo loved his family, but he could not walk the same path as them. Even though they're related by blood, they were not him. He admired their energy that would go after results no matter what, but he couldn't do it himself. If the Jingate family abandoned their stubborn third son Montavo, then the story would end there. Montavo would break away from his family and walk his own path of the straight sword. However, Montavo's family was attached to him. They noticed it. Within their third son Montavo, an excellent and strongly shining talent. That would be hard to let go of. Their third son had the genius to excel at various fields. If only he wasn't so fixated on correctness, if only he wasn't so selective on the means, Montavo would soon win fame on any field. His whole family was desperate to have Montavo to come over to their side. They wanted to plant the Jingate values in Montavo. The means they chose to win Montavo over was a carrot one. Montavo's family decided to treat him nicely at first. Then they talked to him, teach him the way of the Jingate family. If they forcefully told him to do it this way, Montavo would surely resist. However, he wouldn't grudge his family for speaking to him nicely. His family's words, the Jingate values, slowly soaked into Montavo's body. Montavo's heart began to waver. Shouldn't I live more tenaciously, to more efficiently aim for the top? However, Phryne scolded Montavo. Bakhan, you shouldn't choose the easy way. The way to the top is the right way. Montavo was lost between Phryne and his family. Meanwhile, Phryne fell to illness. His father locked Phryne in a room inside the mansion. He strictly ordered his son, Phryne caught a contagious disease. Don't come near under any circumstances. He was even forbidden from visiting. Since Phryne was gone, Montavo gradually adopted his family's values. Never mind grace, results is what we want. Loss is the end, only victory has value, that way of life. His family was happy that Montavo became one of them, and hurriedly taught him rulership. The mood in the house became better, it became comfortable. But Montavo was looking back. Phryne would be disappointed if she saw me now. He wanted to go visit her, but Phryne's illness didn't heal even after 3 months. She had been locked in the small room the whole time. Even after half a year, Phryne's illness didn't show any sign of getting better. Montavo, of course, became doubtful. Did Phryne receive proper treatment? She should have. She really should have. Montavo came to Phryne's room several times, but he didn't open the door. His father strongly told him not to open it. Also, he didn't want Phryne to see him now that he had gotten clever. And that night finally came. That night, Montavo couldn't sleep no matter what, and left his bed. He walked down the corridor to get some air, and then he noticed a suspicious sound. From the first floor, he heard the noise of something being dragged. He approached with quiet steps, and there was Phryne. A thinner Phryne was there. She was crawling on the floor with a desperate look on her face. He hurried to save her, but Phryne told him with hard breaths. Bakhan, please listen to what I'm going to say now. What Phryne told him was about this Jingate house. Phryne had worked with the Jingate since the days of the former head. The former head was unusually selfish, but he lived by the rules as a merchant. He respected Phryne. However, since Montavo's father took over the headship, everything changed. The current head, his father, was an unscrupulous person. He viciously cheated people out of their money and eliminated competition. It was in a small way, but he went too far. The Jingate house had completely changed. They had become cowards. Only the third son wasn't stained with those values. Phryne desperately, as his sword teacher, instructed Montavo on the proper way to live. Also, Phryne as the head maid, bit by bit gathered evidence of the current head's evil deeds. She was going to prosecute him someday. Then just when the evidence had been gathered, Phryne fell ill. Phryne was diagnosed by the doctor as having caught a contagious disease and was locked inside a small room in the mansion. But did Phryne really catch a disease? I think I might have been poisoned. Master noticed what I was doing, and he must have disagreed with me, trying to teach Bakhan to live right. Bakhan, please. With shaking hands, Phryne gave Montavo a memo. Written within was the locations where the prosecution materials Phryne had gathered. In order to give it to Montavo, Phryne desperately broke down the lock and escaped her room. In my stead, please, return this house to the right path. Bakhan, you can do it. Montavo looked at the memo and froze. He knew what he should do as a person. To use Phryne's materials to prosecute his father and brothers, and return this house to the right path. No, before that, take Phryne to another doctor and cure her poisoning. The Montavo a few months before would not hesitate to do that. But Montavo was no longer the person he was before. Stained with his family's values, knowing the world, he was now able to act on self-interest. The strength that allowed him to push on along his own path no matter what people say, was no longer there. If, Montavo thought, if father and my brother's axe came to light, this house would be done for. Montavo would lose money and fame, and had to live as if in a wilderness. No, I can't do it anymore. Montavo half-impulsively tore Phryne's memo and crushed it, and he gulped. Phryne, with a face of abject terror, stared into Montavo's face. Bakhan, why, did you? Montavo did not answer Phryne's repeated questions and took her back into the room. He then laid her on the bed. Leaving the poisoned Phryne and the room, Montavo closed the door. Montavo's transfiguration was complete. Perhaps because of despair, Phryne died a few days later. Even with her gone, Montavo's life did not take a turn for the worse. Rather, everything went on smoothly afterwards. He fully used all his cleverness and wisdom he was born with, and gained dazzling results in business and in the art of the sword. There was nobody in Kura and Sephor who didn't know the name Montavo, and his study at the continent was decided. Montalvo gained excellent results in the Royal Academy he went to. The current head of the Jingaites decided to turn over the family headship to the third son and called him home. His older brothers made no complaints. That was how excellent Montalvo was. Everything went well. Except, the path of the sword that Phryne once taught him was warped beyond any help. And that was how Montalvo's past story ended. I see, I nodded. I get it now. Montalvo, the reason you stopped yourself from helping people was because you were reminded of that Phryne, weren't you? I asked, and Montalvo weakly nodded. Yes, every now and then, when I tried to save someone at a whim, I could hear Phryne's voice that day saying why didn't you save me back then? Right, now I can understand Montalvo for the most part. The former honest young man Montalvo was poisoned by the values of worldly life, committed crimes, and lost the core of his being. The reason he would always call himself noble or elite was because he was helplessly insecure. He wanted to proscribe who he is, to stick a label on himself. Behaving like a bad boy was part of that too. The label of scoundrel is fine too, just stick one on me. As a result, he continued staining his hands with dirty deeds. His family never stopped him, even encouraged him, and moreover the specs he was born with was so high he was incorrigible. Sheesh, what a pain you are. You only wanted Phryne's forgiveness after all, you're only making it worse. Then let's start by visiting Phryne's grave. You haven't gone there anyway, right? You at least know its rough location, don't you? Show me there. Wah, there's no way I can go there. I killed her, I can't go see? No, she definitely won't forgive me. You idiot. Not asking for forgiveness because you don't think they'll forgive you is weird, don't you think? Don't expect them to forgive you. It's an apology because you do it even if you won't be forgiven. I dragged the reluctant Montalvo to where the grave was. I don't know whether I was trying to capture Kirisha or Montalvo anymore. TN, as in carrot and stick, reward and punishment. Interlude, the girl with the blonde ringlets wants to see her lover again. In preparation for Harvest Festival, Kuro was dressed in all sorts of color. With the day of the festival drawing near, the town's decoration multiplied. The commoners' avant-garde art, made from fruits and vegetables and cattle bones. In order to please the gods and fairies who gave their favor to the town day by day, everyone frantically came up with ideas. There were several events held during the festival. An art competition, Miss Kura contest and Uetaro vs Montalvo. The talk of the people were now all about the festival. Who will you take to the festival? When does the Miss Kura contest voting start? Who are you going to bet on, Uetaro or Montalvo? Ah, it's going to be fun. Why won't the day come already? Within the brilliantly colorful town a young girl, Ilya Shihal, was haggard. Where can I go to run away from this sadness? While her prided blonde ringlets swayed in the wind, Ilya unsteadily walked through the town's night streets. It wasn't the hour a girl like her should be walking around in, it was dangerous. However, Ilya didn't care about that, she was already lost in self-abandonment. Something harrowing had happened. So sad that she couldn't bear it just sitting alone in her room. Ilya finally arrived on a stone bridge over the waterways. She laid her head face down on the banisters. Tears began to drop from her blue eyes. Sir Ron, why did you have to go? Why did you leave me behind? Ilya's most beloved Ron had passed away 4 days ago. Her lover Ron was telepathing while walking one against the law, did not watch where he was going and fell down into the waterways. He died not long after. I told you over and over again, telepathing while walking is dangerous. Telepathing while walking is really dangerous. Your concentration is directed there and accidents happen. You crash into people and things. You can't telepath while walking. Don't. Sir Ron. Ilya leaned herself over the bridge railing, gazing at the water that took her lover's life. Starlight reflected from the flowing water. The white moon wavered on the water's surface. It was as if they were beckoning Ilya to the world beyond death. I'll come over to you now, Sir Ron. Ilya had made up her mind. She would jump into the water that took Ron's life. However, I can't die today, either. Ilya couldn't die. Not because she hesitated. It was because she didn't have the arm strength to lift herself up over the railings. Today was her 4th try, but it seems she still failed. She properly exercised herself but her arm muscles were still not adequate. God, why are you so cruel, Desono? Are you telling me to stay alive, here in this world without Sir Ron? Shifting the blame on her own lack of strength to God, Ilya sighed. She's at that age where she'd blame anything and everything on God. She could simply jump down from where there's no railing, but she felt like she'd be running from the difficulty then. Ilya was a suicide applicant with a high self-consciousness. I have to go home and do some more push-ups. Also, get some protein intake. She didn't realize that she was directing her efforts in the wrong direction, but anyway, she wanted to go and join the one she loves. Ilya dejectedly turned herself aside and then she noticed. There was a man standing behind her. That man was Ilya. There's no need to do push-ups, you know. Her lover who's supposedly dead was there. Ilya froze and then clung to her lover with all she had. He was there in the flesh. She could touch him, she could embrace him. Ha ha ha, Ilya, you're suffocating me. Also your hair ringlets are tickling my nose. What do you use to harden these? You have hairspray over here, you do, don't you? Sir Ron, do you know how much I suffered because you died so foolishly? Ilya pressed her blonde ringlet hair onto her lover. Well, I'm really sorry for dying so stupidly. But you're the same too for training to die chasing after me, aren't you? I know I'm putting the cart before the horse, but, I can't help it, can I? You've died? But how did you come back to this world? Ah, yeah. Goddess Yuva asked me to stop you from killing yourself. She said, your lover's doing muscle training to try and kill herself to go after you. I'm not going to be able with that idiot if she came here, so go and stop her. Goddess Yuva? I thank you for your grace. I take offense at you calling me an idiot, but I'll not consider it. Ilya clung to Ron. Even if it was a temporary miracle, meeting with a person she thought she'd lost was really a happy occasion. Ilya, don't die. Lady Yuva is going to punish you if you continue trying to kill yourself by not letting us meet in the next world. So please forget about dying. Really, please stop. She's going to laugh at me in the next world. No, she's telling me to live on alone. It'll be fine. If you lived out your lifespan, she'll let us be together in the next life. I'll wait for you there. Even though you seem tough enough to live 100 years. I can't die then. I have to live in this world all alone. Sir Ron, in that case, would you make some memories with me? A memory of your warmth. Memory. Yes, it's embarrassing to say Disuwa. You want to have sex? Rather than a memory you want to make a child, you mean. So blunt, Disuwa? But you're right, Disuwa. Yes, considering the occasion I'll clearly say it. I want to have sex with you, Disuwa. Take my virginity before you go. Well, but, Ron folded his arms and thought. I really should object. No, it's fine. Since she herself said she wanted to do it, yes, alright Ilya. Let's do it. It kind of bothers me how you're taking it lightly, but why, Disuwa? Ilya jumped up and down like a rabbit. Then where shall we do it? We can't find an inn at this hour, and being noisy at my home is. No, we do it here, said Ron calmly. Here? You mean here Disuno? In public Disuwa. You don't want to? Then I'll go back to that world. Please wait. Swish, Ilya grabbed her lover's arm. I don't mind, let's do it here. That's so? Then Ilya, first lift up your skirt. Skirt, Disuno, but, come on, hurry, the worlds are separating. Will I have to return there half dead? Alright, Ilya hardened her resolve. She grabbed the hems of her skirt and lifted it up. Her legs up to her thighs were exposed, of course her panties too. Even her navel was in clear view. Out of utter embarrassment, Ilya's face was painted red. Black string panties. You have quite a sexy one on. That's because. I was thinking I'd see Sir Ron right after I go. Alrighty then. Ron took hold of Ilya's panties string and undid the knot. Down plopped Ilya's black panties to her feet. My groin feels breezy. Bear with it now, next is. This time Ron grabbed the chest of Ilya's dress, he slipped it down along with her bra. Boing, Ilya's twin hills were exposed to the night air. Now both her top and bottom was exposed. Ron brought his face close to Ilya's chest and Ilya was unable to look Ron in the face out of pure embarrassment. She averted her eyes and, Sir Ron, we're seen? We're being seen. There were people on the other side of the bridge. Some middle-aged men were holding their breaths looking at Ilya. Her nakedness was seen by someone other than her lover. Up to this point in her life, Ilya had taken care to avoid showing skin out of modesty. And yet, she was seen at her most embarrassing moment by those dirty men. Give them a show. It's no big deal. No. Don't. Continue, please. That Disuwa girl was really good. I recalled how Ilya looked earlier and nodded. Her blonde ringlets were really a bother, but other than that she was top-notch. Dirtying the womb of a prim and proper lady, that was the most amazing sense of immorality. It was the best, seeing a lady lift up a leg like a dog in public. And then she let me do it. By the way, I didn't actually approach Ilya because I wanted to do it with her. There was something I want the loose-lipped Ilya to spread by having her meet with Ron. That she met her lover who's supposed to be dead. I wanted her to spread the rumor that you can meet with the dead in Kura. That's because everything needs a foreshadowing. Just think of it as being on the phone while driving. Don't dwell on it too much.
Hello, everyone. As we wrap up this video, I want to share a quick note. I have a Patreon account. If you'd like to support me and enjoy on-demand audiobooks, you can become a Patreon member. Alternatively, you can check out my Google Drive link, which has 500+ novel audiobooks available through my Ko-fi or Patreon shop. I appreciate your support.